Well, let's start the episode 236 of the Current Gen podcast. Tim, Dan, and Kyle here just to be nerds a little bit. That's all we're here for. We're just here to be
in a row. That's right.
Yeah, all three of us, 2 weeks in a row. This is weird. Are we okay? Are you guys doing okay?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess none of us have anything going on, I guess.
You know what I say to that, Tim? I say skibbity.
Skibbity. Yeah, see, we were talking before the recording about all the
I have a work call coming in, so I'll see you guys later. Yeah.
I need to be back to adult world stuff. Wow. Yeah, skibbity. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we're gonna talk about Astro Bot. Speaking of childish things, we're gonna kind of go back in time a little bit, talk about some of our favorite, specifically third-person 3D platformers over the years as well. Because this one it's just reminding me, like, hey, this genre is so magical still. Maybe it's not everyone's favorite, but it just has a magic to it.
Yeah, so I think everyone can. I think even though it's like, for instance, it's not my favorite, there's still like good stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be insane to say that there's not one good 3D platformer that someone doesn't like out there.
That's right.
Is it crazy to say that most of us, especially our age, probably played that primarily, right? Or at least experienced that first was platforms, right?
Oh yeah, platformers in general, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I would even say my foray into 3D gaming was like Mario 64 maybe. So I'm trying to really think about like what was 3D, but yeah, probably so.
Yep. There's a few other games that are out that we'll mention too, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Concord getting shut down. So we'll get into that too. I'm curious what you guys think about that and what Sony does next with all these future projects we've heard about. But first, let's start with the positive, the exciting, the fun. Honestly, the kind of like a weird Christmas morning style flashback for me as I fired up Astro Bot. It just feels like, Dan, like what you said when I was younger and I got the new N64 game and I fired it up. And this is going to be my game for the next 9 months. This is all I can have. And so it just gave me those vibes. It's just very, very jolly, very, very charming.
Nostalgic.
Very nostalgic, yeah. But so Astro Bot, of course, came out this week to ridiculous critical review. And from what I can tell, really excellent audience scores as well. It's one of those few games that doesn't really divide many people. I mean, the people who aren't into it, they don't even hate it. They're just kind of like, yeah, I don't really like that style of game. But there's no one who's like, another one of these or something, you know what I mean? There's no one who's like, oh, what a cash grab. Like, I don't see anyone mad about this game at all, even if it's not their favorite, which is it's very unique, I'm learning, in this day and age of gaming. Very unique to have that. So I fired it up, and I still, today, while doing all the different dad things I've been doing today, like I was telling Dan, I'm putting together like a little custom shelf for some stuff in my office, and I'm watching some football, and the whole time I'm kind of humming, Astro Bot, Astro Bot. Like I'm in my head, I'm just kind of singing a little song as he does his little thing. It's so good. It's so catchy.
Yeah.
So all right. So we fired up, and of course, right away, it did remind me a lot of the what was the PS5 one called?
Oh, Playroom, Astro's Playroom.
The Playroom, where it was very much like, oh, here's your PS5 controller, and an actual PS5 is the ship that breaks, and the bad guy steals the CPU, and you have to go get it back. I very much got Astro's Playroom vibes from it, which was totally fine because I thought that was a very charming little kind of demo type of a thing. Great little pack-in game. But then
I wish we got stuff like that all the time.
Me too. Yeah. Something that's you're not committing to a game. You're just trying something out on your new toy.
No, it's just like here's a cool way to show off all of our weird stuff here. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and celebrate, like PlayStation and.
Honestly, the same feeling I got with Wii Sports, where I was like, I didn't feel like I spent money on this game, but I got a really fun set of mini games to play with Wii Sports.
I think those two are among like the best versions of that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally. When it shows off the hardware like perfect and like and this many years later, like I've said before, like I think it's still the best representation of what the DualSense actually is capable of.
Yeah,
like I can't think of anything else that is on par. So
I don't know if anyone really uses the DualSense in the way that it's supposed to, but like I like that this game came back and was like, hey guys, it can do all this stuff. So that's pretty cool.
So what did you guys think as you fired it up? What were your initial impressions, whether it's visuals, music, the way it feels to play? And I know that we've all tried Astro's Playroom. I don't know if you guys ever played the VR one. I played a lot of the VR one.
No.
Okay. So
I don't even have this one, so this is all you guys.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And Dan did not crumble like I did. I folded like a house of cards, man.
Dan, you will like it when you get it. You will.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It is. I got very much the VR mission I guess it was called Robot Rescue or something like that, was the original one. Very much same vibes as that, just in terms of the level design, creativity, and all that. Looking at the screen, they're always looking at you at the screen, and so you feel like you're kind of like being pulled into the silly little experience. But Kyle, what were your first impressions as you fired it up and tried it out? Even if it's not your favorite genre, what were kind of
out of you? Man, what a ride this was. I came off of playing Space Marines 2, which we'll get to later, playing this. So that's like really brutal and metal and mature, and there's kind of a little bit of a whiplash effect coming to this game. So, and this has a happy ending. So just let me go here. But
let's hear it.
The song comes up, the one that you're singing, which I'm now singing too. But upon first hearing it, again, I'm just coming back from ripping people in half. I'm like,
do it.
I'm already like, this is so cutesy. And
almost say I can't do it.
Almost. It was almost one of those things where I'm just like, I'm not in the mood. You're not going to give this a fair shake. And, I pulled it up. Immediately, I was just like, oh, okay. I just caught myself constantly going like, oh, okay, this is clever. And they do a real good job of not recycling ideas. So, like, you're getting, like, real, like, novelty, like, this is nice, type of, like, stuff from it constantly. But I'm still not quite won over. I mean, I'm still kind of being picky about the music. I'm like, this is all cheer. I love all of that stuff now. Like, it just broke me down. And the moment it broke me down, I'll tell you what it was. If this is a spoiler, I'm sorry, but it's really not. But like, I found Solid Snake and
Psycho Mantis
and Psycho Mantis like in the second or third level, and I go, okay. Like, I was like, my attitude completely changed, which is so petty. I don't.
You don't have to be specific. Do they do anything Metal Gear-esque with that, or is it just they're simply there?
You get the ability to buy like things like that are like items that complement special. Yeah, so it's like you'll like, there'll be in a gumball machine. You're using coins that you collect, a la Mario or Sonic or anything like that, and you're using that currency to buy these little like not amendments, I don't know, like just extra like things. So like Solid Snake gets a box he can put on, and Psycho Mantis gets like a TV that he can throw around that he stands on. A little CRT screen, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, my whole attitude changed immediately, and I know that's petty. I know. But
that's
like,
why there's multiple of this stuff.
I knew I was gonna like this game, but like, something needed to like snap me out of that. Like, I should be killing Tyranids right now.
It was Metal Gear.
Yeah, it should be. And it was, of course, it was Metal. It's always Metal Gear. Metal Gear brings love. That brings love to my heart. So immediately, like, it was like a switch turned off. Started loving the music. Started loving all the platforming. Started loving every little new mechanic that every world has. Yeah. And I'm like beyond the first ape boss and fought a second boss, which was like some kind of like pirate pincer thing that you have to like climb up in. So cool, dude. Yeah,
that was a little like Shadow of the Colossus, where you're using your monkey arms.
You're using monkey arms, and you're having to like use the gyroscope to like lift the arm up, and it's just little things that I would never want to do ever in a video game. Right. Like, they make that very charming in this game, and I'm
it's like a Nintendo game, doesn't it? Feel like a Nintendo game? It really
is like a Nintendo game, and I think that was another thing that I was just like, this is trying to be that, and like good. Like, I think that's okay. I think that this is the closest anyone's ever gotten to like capturing that like charm and that like dumb like smile that you get on your face when you're playing like a good Nintendo game.
Like, very few games can have you do something like Mario gets in the dumbest looking little bee costume and buzzes around, and you're like, yay, this is so fun, right?
Yeah, even I like my heart smiled like whenever you see his hat, like in Odyssey when he throws it on something.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Or like when the frog gets a little mustache on, you're like, I like that. What I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I like that. This game is doing similar things where like really silly. There's a lot of Ape Escape references in this. There's a whole Ape Escape level you can do, which I never really played those games, but it kind of makes me want to go back and at least watch videos of them.
And like you get like, it's kind of like Ape Escape plays like that. So like, for a moment, this game becomes like an Ape Escape game.
This has a whole level where you're literally
doing
you're having a time, but like they're running around. You're having to time, and catch them in certain like movements and stuff like that. Like it is. And it gives you I imagine more levels are going to be like this, because I know there's a God of War level that plays like a God of War game. So
I haven't gotten to that.
I haven't either. Everyone's been talking about it. So
it also has an overworld that is very reminiscent of the classic Mario games. You have your little PS5 controller is your spaceship, and so your PS5 controller is gliding around on the overworld map, and you go to the different universes with different bosses. And there's so many little secret levels and challenge levels. There's like a whole I ended up just kind of flying around. When you see things floating that look like they're just in the background, you can actually fly into them and it might uncover a little bonus level or a little challenge thing here. Like some of them are called Retro Rampage, and everything goes super pixelated, like 8-bit pixels, and you have to just smash it, and all the pixels land on the ground in little squares all over the place. It just is so satisfying. They're like 25-second levels, but they're so cool.
Yeah, I did an armadillo one that was pretty cool, where you're like rolling over the spikes, on his body or whatever. That was pretty cool.
And they use the sound out of your controller that I kind of forgot existed on the PS5. I know other games use it, but like it really uses it a lot.
Yeah.
It uses the sound, it uses the way what do they call it? Not HD Rumble, that was the Switch, but it's got all the highfalutin technology in this controller. It does all this cool stuff, and it does
using all of the stuff.
Yeah, it's using all of it. Yeah,
that's why it reminds me of a Nintendo game. It's like we know our hardware super well, and we love everything Sony and all of our history, and we're gonna kind of embrace all that. We're gonna delight you the way we want to be delighted because we're gamers too. Like it just has that. It feels like it's made by people who just are filled with like gaming love. And I know that sounds super cheesy and stupid, but that's how it feels when I'm playing.
It does. No, it really does. And I was not ready to accept this, that feeling of cheeriness and boy, it won me over. It cooled my icy heart or warmed my icy heart so quickly, like
you were like the Grinch. Then your heart grew.
It was, times, I'm full. Yeah, I called my mom and told her I loved her today. Like that's how happy. That's how good of a mood it put me in. So
yeah, I hugged my kids extra tight. No, it's very funny too. Like it's a little bit Lego game style where there's basically no dialogue. Everyone just kind of makes grunts and noises and like ho and like or like it's all very. I mean, like older Lego games, not the newer ones where there is dialogue. I think there's newer ones in the. Yeah. Anyway, there's dialogue in the newer ones, but it's the kind where it's like it's all very physical, very silly, and my kids and all of us are very captivated by it. Like just because it is a little Looney Tunes, a little Mario. It's all these little pieces kind of put together, and then they have this hub world where you're trying to repair your broken PS5 spaceship. Because the bad guy, of course, stole the CPU, which meant the whole thing fell apart. And now you have to go find the different memory parts and piece it all back together. And so you keep going back to this hub planet. When you get back there, it's very much like, I feel like Mario games do this. Other games certainly do this too, where your hub world has other things you can explore and unlock. It's like its own level. And there's puzzles you can put together. There's little side missions you can do. Once you get a certain number of the little bots rescued, now you can access a new area because they make a little... robot chain of bodies.
There'll be like a little thing that's like, you need 10 to do something here, and like maybe you get a puzzle piece or maybe, you get access to a new area. It's very cool.
Yeah, I did
you get to see all of them hanging out there, which is cool too.
Which is so great. Like Ratchet is standing there with Rivet and Clank and he's spinning his little ratchet. And if you hit him, most of them do something. Some of them just kind of like move and then go back to their pose. But he'll like spill all of his nuts and bolts everywhere and kind of like go to gather him back up. Like little touches like that. There's another minor spoiler here. There's other characters like Spyro, and if you hit Spyro, it'll burn you to a crisp. You become like totally blackened for like 10 seconds. Well, it's just little touches like that are really cute, really funny. And it makes you want to go back to that world and explore it and look around. And there are characters that are definitely not Sony only, definitely not Sony owned, and they're not Sony only. So yeah, there's a lot of those types of characters. The Ape Escape ones are funny to me too, because when you go back to where they're all lounging around or doing their thing, like if you hit them, some of them, their little ape mask will come off and you see that it's a bot underneath and they'll pull the mask back on, because it's little things like that. Just really funny. Like, they thought of all this stuff. It's like they had people play it and try all the dumb stuff, and they made things happen for all the dumb stuff. Well,
it's like they could have just had these characters just be there, just like kind of like stay like, hey, I'm a thing that exists within the Sony world, and it's like they actually added like all these little things, like you said, just kind of like they little emotes, like emoting sort of things.
Kind of they went the extra mile other than just having them present. They got little personalities that match their IP or whatever.
Yep.
And I like the little stuff too, like where you like knock a jar over and things just kind of fall out of it. Like the physics in this game is like so gratifying. Or knocking over paint and like paint will just like spill out everywhere, or something like that. And there's a lot of things where you're like, using boost to crash through a glass, and like the glass like breaks apart in real time, and or you're walking across like an ice bridge and like little pieces of it are falling apart. I don't know, it's just like there's a lot of really cool, very small details that make this game very, very fun to look at. And I hate saying this, sorry everybody, but the 60 frames is really nice, you know.
It's so smooth.
Yeah, it makes it very smooth, you know. So you know, it would be unplayable at 30 completely. No one could play it, period. You know, it wouldn't be possible.
Yep.
No, but it's just a pretty looking game that like I don't know, that runs just super well, and I've had no problems. It's not hard, but it's just like it's just everything that you're doing is very charming. So when you're fighting a boss, you're like, yeah, this is really easy. But like as you're like dismantling them and stuff like that, you're like, oh, this is so fun. You know, I don't know. There's just a gravitational pull to this game of just positivity that I just really enjoy.
I don't know if it will get tougher. I have found a couple of the second armadillo one I did. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to I have to sit up a little bit. I kept falling. Like the jumps were pretty precise. And I started to wonder, I wonder if this game, as I get into the future, I'm only in the second world as well. As I get into the future worlds and future optional levels, is it going to do the Mario thing where most of it you can play through and you don't need to be amazing, you just need to be competent and you'll be able to get through it. But we've got side stuff that's going to push you to the limits. Because Mario Wonder, for example, had that. Like all these, like a lot of these Mario games will have hey, if you want to be pushed, we've got that option. I don't know if this will have it or not. I can't tell yet. But some of the challenges have made me go, okay, all right, that was a little tougher than the rest of this game has been. Okay. So there's a couple of those, and I kind of like that. I like the optional.
I think that's one of my favorite things, especially with Mario, because Mario, like you said, they've done that for a long time. Like the bonus worlds, that little extra challenge, like that is one of my favorite things.
There is a lost galaxy that I stumbled upon that is that you do a couple things and all of a sudden this extra galaxy that's not one of the main bosses for the story shows up, and it's very Rainbow Road. It looks like the Star Road style because it looks like there's probably 5 or 6 levels in here, and I unlocked the first one, so I haven't tried it yet, but I assume it's difficult. My guess. Yeah. But anyway, I
love that stuff. I love the secrets.
Yeah. The powers, like Kyle mentioned, they pretty much every level, not even just every overall like world or galaxy or whatever. Every level that you go into, and each one has maybe 5 or 6, maybe 5 main levels that you go through. They're themed in a certain way, very Mario Odyssey and Mario Wonder-esque. They all have a theme. They all have really creative visuals and music, but then they'll have a power. Like we talked about the monkey, there's like climbing arms that you get. There's an elephant trunk that you get where you suck up this goop and you use that for various platforming abilities.
Mario Wonder just had an elephant, so...
These are all like backpacks you put on.
Same idea.
Yeah, same exact thing. There's one where you actually shrink down and become a little robot mouse with ears. And robot.
Cute.
And everything's huge, right? Because you're tiny now and you're running around gigantic stuff. So little touches like that are so fun. Like it's really good, man. It's one of those games that I expected to be decent. And for me to mention, like maybe at the end of the year, guys, I had fun with this. It's kind of on my like honorable mentions, or maybe number 10 on my favorites. Like that's what I expected.
Yeah.
I thought I would like it and have a hard time, but now I'm playing it and I'm like, this is Nintendo could have made. Like if you told me Nintendo actually partnered up with Sony and they made this, I would believe you because it's that.
That's
good.
A lot. Yeah, that
high praise.
For them, that probably means a whole ton, because I'm sure that's been in reviews and stuff, and people talking about it, be like, yeah, this is like pretty much Mario quality stuff, and it's like that's high praise. That's high praise.
That's high praise. Yeah, it's really, really good. Very simple mechanics, and they add so many fun little things that are only there for that level so far. Yeah. Maybe they'll reintroduce stuff, but most of the abilities are like, this is just for this level. Don't worry about it. And maybe there'll be another one that's like it, but for the most part, this is just this level. I love it. Awesome. Visuals are great. The gameplay is fun, so I highly recommend it. It's also I think only $60, or was it 50? I can't remember.
I think it's just 60. Yeah.
I know it's not the like normal 70 you see, so it's a little less than usual.
Yeah. That's true.
And I gotta tell you, it's worth 60 if that's what it costs. Like it's definitely worth.
Yeah, it's 60. It's 60.
So I love it. But it got me thinking about third-person 3D platformers. At first, I started wondering about like 3D platformers, and as I was doing some searching and like thinking through what are some of my favorites or what are ones that jump out to me, I decided to get rid of first person because that really opens up a whole new realm of like, well, how do you compare something like Portal 2 to Mario Odyssey? It's hard for me to do, but they're technically both platformers, right? They're both 3D platformers. So just thinking of like third person platformers over the years, I thought we could talk about some of the ones that we've all liked. It doesn't have to be ranked unless you want to. I don't think I ranked mine. I just listed a whole bunch. So we can just kind of name
3D platformers or just platforms.
Mostly 3D. I was thinking Astro Bot as I'm playing it and running in little circles and doing my little laser Astro Bot legs and stuff. So yeah. Let me open the link. There we go. So as just like an idea of what Metacritic says are some of the best 3D platformers over the years. This is going to come as no surprise, but of the top 5, 4 of them are Mario games.
No.
Without looking, unless you guys already opened the link.
I don't believe you.
Which Mario games do you think are in the top 5?
Odyssey, Galaxy, 64.
Galaxy 2 might be higher than Galaxy.
Sunshine.
What do you think, Dan? Any other ones?
I could only go before.
Well, there is only like 5 or 6.
Yeah, there's not that many, I guess. Yeah. The only ones not in there are 64 and Sunshine.
Okay.
And but you missed
Sunshine's usually at the bottom.
Mario 3D World is in the top.
3D World, right.
Which is, I love that game. But Mario Galaxy's at a 97, tied with Mario Galaxy 2, also at a 97, tied with Mario Odyssey, also at a 97. So it's safe to say that Nintendo they've done a pretty good job.
They're okay.
97? That's crazy. Yeah.
97.
Wow.
Especially when you think of like recent years of the games that are just to us like 10 out of 10s, no question masterpiece, and they struggled to get like 93, 94, and it's like, hey, that's amazing. 97s for those Mario games. And then you've got at 94, newly minted Astro Bot is now the number 4 overall, according to Metacritic. And then you got Mario 3D World. Followed by, of course, lots of other games, including stuff like Conker's Bad Fur Day, and you got Crash Bandicoot in here. You got Spyro, Ratchet and Clank, Banjo-Kazooie. So you got just a whole bunch of the classics that we've all come to know and love. What are some of the ones that you guys have liked? Like Dan, what are some? You talked about like growing up. That's kind of like how you maybe even started in some ways. What were some of the ones that jump out to you?
Yeah. The very first video game I've ever played was I had the Super Mario Bros. / Duck Hunt combo cartridge.
Yeah.
So I had that bad boy. Mm-hmm. But as far as 3D, like Mario 64 was definitely the first like 3D platformer that I played. So that's definitely
that was my first time moving in a 3D space in a game.
Yeah.
It may have been mine too. I think so.
Yeah.
Like that analog stick was mind blowing to me. I was like, I think I just ran in a circle around the pipe for probably a solid 5 minutes. Like, what?
Yeah, I remember like just running around outside the castle and then like running inside and like not really even understanding that there were like levels and stuff like that. And I was like, I just thought you just ran around the guy.
Yeah.
I thought it was just exactly. Or just like it would just
mind-blowing.
Or just be the outside. There'd be some enemies. You go inside. Maybe enemies were wandering around the castle, but not like that. That there was all these different like. Yeah, it's just
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. But like Banjo-Kazooie is also like phenomenal. Like both of those games I remember like actually when I first experienced them was like at a Walmart, like the N64 kiosk.
Oh, a kiosk, yeah.
And like but like the ones where like it wasn't like the special ones, it was like the TV was up here, so you're like a little kid with your neck like bent up all the way straight up, like looking, and the controller down here, and like you'd be and a couple kids around you waiting for you to finish it, and you just be a jerk, and you're like, I'm just gonna sit here and like I'm gonna play this for a while. I don't know who these kids are, but yeah, Banjo-Kazooie is definitely another really like great important one. I never played Tooie though, and I definitely actually want to get to that eventually. But yeah, I would love to do that one. I'll probably actually do that on stream eventually. Nice. But then as far as like more recent ones, just to kind of like vary it up, like Kirby: The Forgotten Land was phenomenal. Like, and that's a Kirby game. I've never been like a Kirby game is phenomenal, but that game is actually pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. I didn't really get into that when I played the demo and thought it was a lot of fun. I did play some Banjo-Kazooie. Now, it doesn't super hold up if you go back and play it now. I think they did like a remaster of it that maybe is a little better. I don't know.
Well, I think the 360 version is like kind of a remaster. Like I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of true. Sorry, this is blasphemy. Mario 64 is also still super fun.
That game is rough to go back to.
But like when you play, now that you've played Galaxies and Odyssey and like modern, like it's a little tough to go back and revisit.
Yeah, Galaxy is my favorite 3D one. I don't know if you guys have a favorite like Mario or anything, but mine's
that's to think like through 100%. 1 versus 2. I know I used to always say 2's better, 2's better, 2 better, but I can't put my finger on exactly why.
Sorry, not Galaxy, Odyssey.
Odyssey's
my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, Odyssey's my favorite.
I think Odyssey's my favorite too, if I had to pick. But and Kyle, I know it's not your favorite genre, but what are some of the ones that still jumped out at you as you thought back on your days of playing the?
More recently, It Takes Two, which was another one where I was like, this cute game is not gonna get me, and then Jeff and I beat that game in like 2 sittings, and I was like, it got me. So that one comes
brilliant
to mind.
In its puzzles and its environment.
Yeah, and it's much like Astro Bot. You never do the same thing twice. Like it is just a new idea in every room or every box that you walk into.
New tools all to use all the time. Yeah. That's a good one.
And then you mentioned it before. Conquer's Bad Fur Day is such a blast. That's one like when you're playing as a kid, you're like, I am getting away with something. An adult should be here, like
it's the same as watching wrestling. It's like
right. Yeah, Attitude Era Wrestling. You're like, I think I'm getting away with something here.
They came out around the same time, so there you go.
And that game was like really good for its time too. Even the 360 like remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it. Like I just remember like things really holding up in terms of its platforming and in combat and bosses and comedy. It's probably a little juvenile now. I'm almost 40. I'm sure I'm not laughing at a giant piece of poop singing. Maybe I am. I don't know.
Maybe you are. Catch you on the right day. Catch you on the right day, and you might.
Probably, yeah. I have fond memories of it, and I think if they're funny in my head still, they're probably funny out loud still. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good one. So I really enjoy Bad Fur Day as well.
There's a demo for the new remaster. It looks like a remake coming out for Disney's Epic Mickey. Games like that jump out to me, where there's like licensed 3D platformers that are easy to overlook, but some of them were super fun. And that's one that I totally skipped on the Wii. And if I did play it, I didn't play it much. And playing the demo of the new version, really cool.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And there are a few others like that are kind of like the kind of tucked back in the corner, kind of the lost 3D platformers that are out and about. I think even stuff like the Blob games. Do you guys ever play those?
I haven't played those.
No, never played that one.
The Blob games, were so great. Very similar in terms of like thinking of a game like Astro Bot, where there's very like tongue-in-cheek, cartoony villains and heroes, and oh no, we got to go fix this ridiculous problem that happened. But the bad guy took all the color out of the city, so you are this blob of paint, or this blob that can soak up paint, and you need to go repaint the city and the environment. And you have all these enemies that are trying to stop you, and it's just super colorful and creative and so fun. I loved those games, like little things like that are just these little unknown tucked away corners of the 3D platforming world that I still love.
Well, there was I don't know if you guys remember, because I mean you have the Little Big Planet series, and then
I like those,
and then there was Adventures, which I actually think is the most competent one out of all of them. Sackboy Adventures, yeah.
Did Astro Bot kill Sackboy? Like is Sackboy like never? Are we never going to see Sackboy again? I guess
probably. Like Sackboy's probably in this, right?
Probably, but like I think like this is the mascot now, right? I mean, like Sony's
seems like it, yeah.
Sony's moving the robot forward, and I think Sackboy's taking the bench if I got to take a guess. Yeah,
he tore up that sack. So
I wonder if it did sell pretty well on PS5, but I know on PC it was like their worst one when they ported it, just in terms of like not worst quality, but like worst performing.
Sales-wise.
Yeah.
But all that to say, like as far as obscure ones, because I don't know if a lot of people remember Tearaway.
Tearaway's cool. That's
a Vita game.
It's the same.
Isn't that the same developer as
Media Molecule?
Yeah, it's Media Molecule. Yeah.
Great.
It was Vita, and then it came out to PS4.
They did like
they ported it.
They ported it and took away all like the touchscreen stuff.
Yeah. But that just had a really like cool paper style to it. It was like kind of like arts and crafts type of like vibe and aesthetic to it, which was really cool.
Yep, that was great. We have to of course mention stuff like Sly Cooper. I really enjoyed those games on the PS2. I'm pretty sure I played all 3, but I really remember 2. I played a lot of Sly 2, which I think was called Band of Thieves, I think. I think the first one was like Devious Raccoonus, and then Band of Thieves, and then I forget the third one. But anyway, those games were super fun because I always like stealth, and that had really fun but very like kid-friendly, simple versions of stealth. So like it wasn't super punishing. Even if you got spotted, I mean, it's still kind of a 3D platformer, cartoony style. It wasn't super.
It was like heist and stuff, wasn't it? Weren't you like
a lot of heist? Yeah, you had like your cane, and you could like use that as, you know, whether it's for combat or for sneaking around or hooking on things and swinging. Like it was just fun. I thought that game was really, really clever. I like the Sly Cooper games. We have to, of course, mention Crash Bandicoot games, guys. Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, we don't. We can move on.
Okay. All right, next. So I actually never played the original Crash games until like the trilogy or whatever came out.
The collection.
Collection. So I went back and played them just as a novelty. Like, oh, this is what these were all about. Cool. But then I don't know. The ship had already sailed for me to like get into the old games, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I played a lot of, never beat, but I played a lot of and really enjoyed 4, About Time. Yeah. I thought that was a really well made, and it did a combo of some 3D. I think it was mostly 2D if my memory serves correctly, but it had a lot of both, and it was really fun. I thought that was a great game.
Yeah. 4 like looked really nice, like just looked like a newer type of like 3D platformer, but like kind of keeping the spirit of like what Crash was.
Yep.
So, as far as like a lot of Sony stuff actually, because you were mentioning Raccoon there. Why am I suddenly Sly Cooper?
Yeah, Sly. Yeah.
But there was like the trifecta there. There was Sly, there was Jack and Daxter, and Ratchet and Clank. So
that's right.
Kyle, which one were you between the 3?
None of those, but
none of them. Okay.
I was Sly Cooper because of the stealth. I liked Sly.
I always thought Jack and Daxter looked the coolest. So.
Okay, that's the one. Yeah, that was my. That's the one. I finished that trilogy. But
Ratchet always had the most. Nice. Ratchet always had the most fun weapons in those games.
Yeah, I remember loving the Ratchet and Clank commercials. Like whenever a new one would come out, and like they would do those like live action like crazy commercials. I always love the marketing.
With the chicken gun and stuff.
Same thing with like Bandicoot had the best marketing. Like outside of Nintendo screaming. And,
Didn't they go egg the Nintendo
I think we're all
offices?
chasing that high, to be honest. I think that had some of the best marketing ever in video games.
I'm pretty sure Crash egged the Nintendo offices at one point.
Probably. Yeah. I know he megaformed. Yeah.
He didn't give a fuck. Crash didn't give a fuck.
He was like the DX of video games. You know what I mean? He was like crashing the other team's thing. I loved. I know I played Jack 3 and I played Daxter all the way through on PSP. And that was it was a spin-off. It was a pretty fun little game with Daxter on the PSP. That was a good one.
PSP and the Vita rocked. What happened? What did we do? We chose with our dollars and we chose wrong, guys.
So you can see all my like cases here. I've been doing a lot of like inventory and cleaning up in my office and so like I'm gonna be trying to figure out a way on a shelf or something to display these all my game cases that I've got. But it also I realized that tucked away in the bottom underneath a bunch of these cases, like there's my Vita with the charger and PSP with the charger. They're both like sitting right there. Like I still have them both. I should flex because the Vita is still my number one play to play a bunch of the PS1 classics. Like so many of the PS1 classics are.
It is like the best way.
Yeah. And I still that game to
and
me,
more are available there than any other storefront too. So
that's right. Yeah, it had a great form factor. I loved the Vita. I thought the screen looked great. I loved the way the buttons felt. Like the Vita was great. So.
Like the Vita, like I know that it's Nintendo's like ball game, but like the Vita was my favorite handheld hardware ever. Like to date.
So well made, really, really well made. But anyway, I digress. We can't forget about newer stuff. That one, the studio got demolished and then brought back recently. And that is Hi-Fi Rush. Technically, is a 3D platformer.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So the 3D platformer, as we know it, has of course shifted over the years to become different things. Like even the newest Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which is a gorgeous game. Some people call it like a third-person shooter, and yeah, that's true. But it still is also a 3D platformer.
It's a 3D platformer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shooting mechanics.
Don't forget Sonic Frontiers. That was a great entry.
Sonic. Right. Yeah. Sonic was high up there. Sonic Adventures 2 is high up there for like one of my favorites.
Banger of a soundtrack.
So, yeah. Same with Adventures 2. Yeah. And even stuff like Jet Grind Radio and Jet Set Radio. Those are platformers, with also great music. So.
Yeah.
And then the one other one I wanted to mention that isn't kind of an obvious one would be the Psychonauts games, especially 2.
Oh, duh. Yeah, 1,000%. Yes, yeah.
I love those games. They're both
shame on me.
So
I never
good.
finished that one.
Yeah, they're both.
I need to go
so
back
good.
and finish 2 as well. I like 1 a lot. Like a lot. So.
Yeah, they're both really, really good. I thought 2 had an incredible, way better than it should have been, like story and finale. And I was like, man, why was this game so good? It's so stupid. Like, what a dumb game.
Yeah. But it's also smart. Like, it's also like to conceive ideas
very
like
smart.
that. Like, it is a very smart game that parades around as something stupid.
Yeah, very good point. Yep, I agree. But as far as Mario games, you mentioned which one's your favorite, Dan, is Odyssey. I think I agree with that. I think one that goes unsung a lot is Mario 3D Land for the 3DS. Was just, 3D World, of course, is amazing. I have since played it, and I never did finish the Bowser one, the Fury add-on.
Bowser's Fury.
Yeah, I never did finish that, but I did finish 3D World and loved it. But 3D Land is one of those ones on the 3DS that I just could not put down. I played that game so much. I love.
I think I beat that game. Yeah.
And it had a great B-sides. Like when you think you finished it, and then it's like, oh, how about you do all of it, but with this variation? It's like, holy crap, this is amazing. And
use the 3D well, because they gave you that depth, so it played into like the kind of like
the 3D was good in that game. Yeah,
platforming. Yeah.
Nintendo just knowing their own hardware,
Yeah, there are certainly times where depth perception is important, and some games do it better than others. But when you had the 3D on, it was like, I can see where I'm going to land. That was the one gameplay advantage when it came to 3D platformers, with that little depth that it added.
Yeah,
but
it's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, man, there's been so many good ones, and all of these are like charming, silly, fun. There's lots of others, of course. So when you think of like other IPs, whether it's like Medieval, there's lots of spin-offs too, and some of like smaller games like Super Lucky's Tale came out in the last few years.
Maximo, those games are really fun.
Wow. Yeah. And we've seen some franchises dip into it, like Donkey Kong 64, maybe with a little bit less success, like critically at least.
Yeah, but people like have a lot of reverence for that. Like
nostalgia is strong.
Yeah, the nostalgia is like real strong when they think about, well, that has the Donkey Kong rap,
That's
it's
right.
Pretty, like, doesn't make it a good game, but it does have that rap. So
yeah, and plenty of games use a 3D space and have platforming elements to them, but I just don't think of them as platforming games. Like, for example, the newer Star Wars games. Technically, they have a lot of platforming, but I don't think of them that way. I would think of like Beyond Good and Evil maybe as technically a platforming adventure game, but anyway, yeah, lots of good ones, lots of good memories.
Platformers are pretty cool.
They're cool.
Yeah,
I enjoyed them.
Yeah, not too shabby. Make sure I feel like I forgot one or two. Sorry, Gaston will let us know which ones we forgot, and how dare we not talk enough about.
Gaston, give me a list of 50 top 3D platformers, please.
Yeah, that's your homework.
50.
So far, I think between the three of us, we've mentioned Lost Winds is one that's on the Metacritic list that I don't even remember that. It was a WiiWare game.
Hey, GOTY contender Stray. Okay. Let's not forget Stray.
Journey technically is a platformer.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure. Yeah.
Another GOTY right there.
You mentioned Maximo. Well done. Good catch on that one.
Love Maximo.
A game called Crush. I never even heard of that. Crush.
Me neither.
The Xbox. The Skylanders games.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We did talk about Ape Escape briefly, just with Astro Bot, but Ape Escape, of course, are well loved and well known.
Mm-hmm.
The Yoshi's game. There haven't been any 3D ones, I don't think, for Yoshi, right?
No,
all those have been.
So.
Not in the like Mario 6, like the 3D Mario, like roaming around type of style. No, they are usually side scrolling. Even if they're 3D, look like
Yoshi, you belong in the 2D space.
Get back to the 2D.
Get back to the 2D.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ones too that like. What was that? What was that Xbox exclusive from Insomniac?
Sunset Overdrive.
Thank you. Like, is that a platformer or not really?
I would say it's a shooter with locomotive, like.
Locomotive kind of platform.
Like you're trying to like build up speed via platforming though. Yeah, I mean there's a platforming angle to it for sure.
Borderline.
It's borderline. Yeah.
Actually, you know what is the ultimate 3D platformer is Only Up. All right.
Only Up. Shut up.
Stop
it.
My
God.
You stop it right now. Of course, we didn't mention, but all the Lego games were really fun. All the Lego games are really fun.
True.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Disney Infinity. If we're mentioning Skylanders,
I like Disney Infinity. Yeah. I still have some of the little figurines sitting up.
I have every single Star Wars right there. That's all of the Star Wars ones. How do I do? There we go.
There they are. Yeah. Aw. Rest in peace.
And these are all the Marvel ones down here. I don't know how to use my hand.
Didn't the Disney Infinity team just do a game that we all loved? What was the game that they just did?
I don't know. I thought they shut down completely. Did they survive?
I thought the team isn't that Monolith?
A lot of people helped on Disney Infinity.
Avalanche, I mean, not Monolith. Avalanche, yeah, Avalanche.
Oh.
Who also, of course, did.
I swear this has come up before. Where I think
Hogwarts Legacy. That's what it was. They just
Hogwarts Legacy. Dang, yeah. They learned everything that they needed to from Disney Infinity to make Hogwarts. I remember
as we were like, "Oh, who's making the new Hogwarts game?" Oh, it's the guys who did Cars 2 and 3 and Bolt and Toy Story and Disney Infinity and Hannah Montana. Crap, you know what I mean? That was kind of my. If I'm being honest, and I still enjoyed the Disney Infinity game.
Yeah, no, nothing about Disney Infinity goes. These guys are going to nail a AAA huge IP. You know what I mean? There's no way. It doesn't translate.
And they did, man. They crushed it.
They did.
They clearly were a Disney studio because for the last 15 years before that, they had done Chicken Little. Meet the Robinson.
Well, and Toy Story 3 is the thing that was the foundation for Disney Infinity.
Yes,
so it's people really like Toy Story 3 for whatever reason.
I platinumed that game.
Did you really?
Well, here we go. We're sitting.
There you go.
It's legit very fun. Well, the sandbox mode was really cool from what I remember. It was just very
cool. It's cool in Disney Infinity too. Yeah, that part of it is very cool.
All right. Well, let's shift gears away from light and sunshine and goodness and happiness into something dark and twisted and violent. It's not technically out till next week, but Kyle has been able to start playing some Space Marine 2. I think a lot of people have early access for some reason, right? Or did they?
More people. So many people got early access. The servers aren't even working for any of us who got it. So
got it.
They were not. They were not prepared for how many people.
Solo pretty much right now.
I have been getting lucky. I've been turning off cross play, which usually always the culprit, for server issues. And but there have been hiccups, where it's we finish a whole level and someone drops out, doesn't get, credit, stuff like that.
So yeah, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 technically out next week, but it's kind of out now, and Kyle's been able to play it. What do you think so far? I know, of course, you loved the first game. You love this whole IP. What is your first impressions of this one?
So I'm very excited this is finally out. I'm about 14 hours in. I've beaten Operations mode, which is the online Left 4 Dead-ish type of mode where you're kind of going through the level and interacting with levers and stuff like that to get to where you need to be. But they really do a good job of capturing the big moments from the campaign and putting it in the multiplayer. So you're not just wave. It's not just waves, it's not just running through hallways. They do a really good job of capturing the big moments, so, and I believe as seasons go on and more content comes out, you'll get more operations and you can, up the difficulty of these. We're all bleeded on the easiest difficulty, which is what they tell you to start on. It's mega hard on that. We try to go to normal today. It's impossible. We have to grind a little bit, But yeah, multiplayer is cool. You get a lot of you're leveling up, you're leveling up your weapons, you're leveling up your character, you're, assigning stuff to a perk tree, you can customize your character. You unlock a lot of customizations by just playing the game. That's all really cool. So I really like that they spent time to just build a non-service game related multiplayer mode. You know what I mean? So it's this is what I would call an old school multiplayer component to a video game. And they just have a PvP also that just serves as you can do Capture the Flag or King of the Hill or Slayer match or whatever, death match or whatever. But it's not tied to this ridiculous games as a service type of thing. It's just old school. You know what I mean? You're just playing to play it.
I love that.
You're not playing to to grind on a battle pass. Maybe that stuff comes later. I don't know. I haven't seen any battle passy stuff yet or anything like that. But I've seen stuff pop in games later, especially when games go live a week later. Yeah, there's nothing telling you to buy anything. There's no currency locked behind paywalls. There's none of that stuff. So
sounds crazy to me, Kyle.
It's insane, Dan. I tell you, I don't know what's going on.
Sounds crazy.
But the campaign is really cool, man. And there's
the pickup right where the other one left off. Right. Is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's 200 years later, and they kind of fill you in on like what was going on after the first game with like what Titus has been doing. And Titus is like a really important character to the lore, and like this game is like. First off, if you don't know anything about Warhammer, don't worry. There's going to be some words that maybe you don't understand, you know.
Wait,
but like
Titus from Final Fantasy X is in this.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Titus, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, but like there's all this. There's all this. Now. There's going to be a lot of jargon coming your way, but like it's all contextual and you can understand the story fine. However, if you spent years, like myself, playing the tabletop game, reading the novels, checking in on the short stories, all this stuff. You were going to be delighted to just reference after reference after reference. I mean, like my head was spinning, and there are like reveals of enemies that pop up, and I'm like, "What the f are they doing here?" You know, like that is so what? And like, you know, I'm playing with two people now who are like, "Are they important?" I go, "Yes." You know,
are they important?
What do you mean? Are they important? You know, like so. There's a lot of like really cool stuff that is just like making me happy as like a diehard Warhammer 40K like lore fan, even though like my understanding of the lore is really low scope compared to a lot of people who like really dive into it. We're talking about a series that has like 800 books. Like if you want to learn, if you want to read everything, like there's like 800 novels, you know, like, so yeah, it's crazy. I'm really enjoying it. It's the gameplay's awesome. It's way, and the first one's kind of like this too, more melee based than you think this game is. So like you're really going in there with swords and hammers and stuff like that, and just like chewing away at these Tyranids who have this like really awesome.
And you've got your bolt gun you can still use.
Yeah, you can still shoot it. It plays like a third-person shooter. It's not cover based, as they joked in the first game. You are the cover. So you don't need to hide behind cover.
You got to keep moving and just swinging.
You just got to keep moving. You know, when you do an execution, very much like Doom, you get them like really hit down to till they're blinking. You run up, you hit R3, you rip them in half, you bash their head in, you rip their head off, you stab them with their own weapon. You know, like 1,000 different ways. It'll give you an
video games.
Piece, you know, like it will replenish your armor. So the idea is that like, and maybe you get hit and your red bar, it turns white for a section. If you can kill someone immediately, you get that health back. So the game is just like, you just got to go. You know what I mean?
Rip and tear.
You're not stopping. You're not doing any of that. So it's got a really good like pacing, like Doom, specifically the first one of the remakes, you know, where it's just about killing. It's just about getting to the next guy and ripping their face off, you know? And with 3 people, it's a lot of fun. You know, the game is hard. Like it does push back, you know, and having like extra people there is pretty nice. And I don't know, man, this game is just super cool, and it's delivering super hard for me. I just hope that we get more content soon, because like already being done with like kind of all the missions online. But like Left 4 Dead, you're playing the same 5 missions in Left 4 Dead 2 and upping the difficulty. So it is of that nature, you know, so I have to maybe reframe my mind a little bit about what kind of mode I'm playing here. And I think the tangibility of there being a progression system kind of helps with that grind and maybe, you know, doing that stuff over and over again. So I'm really excited to spend more time with this game. I'm thrilled that a lot of people in the group got into it. And I'm thrilled that people were checking it out. And I hope a lot of people enjoy this game, because it is the most metal game I've ever played. Like it's just everything's grimdark, everything's crazy. You're looking at the skyboxes, it's insane. You know, there's just all this stuff going on in the sky, and like it's just like the story is just epic. Like everything about it is just so extra. And I love it, you know, and I hope that, and I really think Gears of War fans should like jump in on this, you know, like it's not the same exact kind of thing, but like there's enough similarities there. With just being big dudes in armors like cleaving people, that I think that like you can get a lot of fun out of it if you're a big Gears fan. So
yep. And I would argue if you like Doom as well, like the fact
Doom,
like
absolutely, yeah.
Again, it's not so melee when you play Doom, but there's so much of the newer Doom games. So, yeah. It's true. But when you're playing Doom, you are, at least I loved the shotgun, and I loved just ripping them apart and running through.
Yeah.
So I would run towards enemies a lot in the Doom games, and I loved that. So this kind of wants you to do that too. It's just in third person. But
what's cool about the online mode too is that those missions are very story focused, and they're happening parallel to the campaign. So
nice.
You're getting like context and stuff like that.
That's fun.
Stuff that happening off screen, or that's pretty cool too. So
the campaign's like a named character, and then the online is you create your own.
Yeah, you're playing kind of like a dude. You know what I mean? I think they have names too, but like they're not important. You know, they're just like the dudes are just there as a class. You know, to choose. And you can change everything about like the character's armor, but like you can't change like their face and stuff like that. So
okay, gotcha.
When you choose a class, you're choosing a character, pretty much.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's so cool that you've had access to this early, because technically it arrives on the 9th, I believe, September 9th.
I think the servers just went down about an hour ago for some fixes, and if they didn't get this in before Monday, if this many people are playing it now, I can only imagine they're going to double or triple their numbers come Monday when this game launches. And that's awesome. Like, this is a good problem to have. I don't like being on the wrong end of network issues, but like, it is very good to see that something like this, not exactly a new IP by any means, but like something like this is selling well in the industry right now, where things just kind of like, I can't tell when things are going to sell well or anymore. I can't.
Yep. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm hoping that this one does well. It's one of those ones that got delayed, unfortunately, a few times, probably for good reason, right? It just wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
Cook some more,
and I've had there's no slowdown for me. There's no it is performing well whenever the network is working. So
that's great. Love that.
It seems like there's a lot happening, so that's probably why
there's a lot going on. Yeah,
like I've seen clips of like this flying swarm thing going on,
but then
like,
they're swarming
insane.
on the ground too, and like it's just like there's just a lot going on, and like even like you as you're like chainsawing them, like the amount of particle blood and guts and everything going everywhere, just a lot. It's a lot
that is a lot.
It's a lot to process, you know.
Yeah, that is a lot. All right, well, cool. Well, I'll hear more about that one next week as well with its official release. I'll get additional thoughts that you have on that one, Kyle. I do plan on getting that probably at a price drop, mainly just because
it'll drop.
Still got to play the first one, and I know that those games drop in price without too much of a wait. So, but I did get, and I have not played yet because it's on PS Plus. That's the only reason I got it. Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. I just haven't tried it yet, but it is on PS Plus for the free monthly game or whatever. So.
It's not lore accurate, so I'm not playing it. Be the big Harry Potter guy of the group. I'm,
sure.
Such a lore guy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know they changed the rules for the point total for the catching the snitch, which essentially in the movies, for the movie's sake, it kind of was enough to win the game like instantly. Which even when I first watched that first movie, I'd never read the books, and I went to see the first movie with my wife, but my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, that's a stupid game. Like, to have anything that you could do that would just, no matter what, like, game. What's the point of that? But anyway, so I understand why they did it for this. I just have no idea if it plays well, if it looks good. I haven't fired it up yet because
I haven't really heard anything either. Have y'all even heard anything about?
I don't even know what the game actually looks like. I just saw that first trailer that like looked like maybe it was a CG trailer. Like I have no idea. Like I don't even know. Like, what is the game even like?
Is it real? That's the question.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was like an 8-bit, like crappy game that no one knew because it just wasn't marketed that way or something?
I know it's getting very middling to low reviews. It's in like the 60s.
Cool.
So, anyway.
Exciting.
Apparently, according to some of these reviews, it gets the core mechanics right, but it's just, some people say it's polished enough. You know, it sounds like they're giving it like, here's your flowers for part of it, but overall,
sure. You made a game that works. Congrats. You know.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have that many reviews, which tells you something as well. Like, not many people.
Interest is not there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Age of Mythology Retold is out now, so make sure you check that one out. I do know that one is reviewing quite well. People are enjoying it.
It's on Game Pass. Give it a whirl.
It is on Game Pass. Yep. Sumerian 6, which I talked about briefly, is also getting pretty good reviews. That's like a isometric kind of stealth strategy action game where you control a unit during World War II, it's like an alternate history sort of a story. The casting of Frank Stone is out. Anybody? Dan?
Nothing yet.
Reviews were not good, so I backed off.
Okay, that's what I was waiting for because my wife was like, "Oh, I'm excited," but I was like,
they're not 4s, you know.
It's like a 71 average.
Yeah, they're not great. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wait for a sale.
Yeah, I would wait for a sale. Yeah.
We briefly talked about Bakeru or Bakaru, however you say it. That one is out.
So since y'all have brought that up, I've been obsessed with getting this game, but I just won't pay $40 for it. But like, I will play this game at some point.
I played the demo.
I'm shocked it's that much.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I played one level of it. I like the look of it. It's charming. The demo, that one level was kind of like, oh, this is like a little boring, but it's also just a demo. There's going to be more that you can like unlock and do, of course. But yeah, I wasn't like, oh yeah, for $40, like I need this. Like,
yeah, it's a little steep, but it does look fun.
The promise of being like a mystical ninja, like continuation, you know, loosely is I think the big selling point for a lot of folks.
Yeah, totally. There's a game out that's called Starcom Unknown Space. If I remember
Sounds made
right.
up. Sounds like an AI game.
Sounds unknown.
I know. It's only $20. It has very positive, like 91% user review on Steam from their users. Okay. It's an action RPG of space exploration and adventure. Build your own starship while discovering an epic story in the universe of strange mysteries, alien factions, and uncharted worlds. The thumbnail, like the key art for it, makes me think they're trying to go for a little bit of a Mass Effect, Star Trek type of a vibe. Okay. I don't know if they nail it. I don't know if it's any good. Most of the screenshots and gameplay videos I'm seeing look like it's a lot of menus, and then you fly a little ship around. So I think you make a lot of decisions. I think you do a lot of management, RPG, leveling up, improving. I don't think you actually have a character in a 3D space walking around talking. I think it's more a combination of spaceship action. Maybe that's where the action is. And then a lot of like conversations and decisions to make, I think.
Gotcha. Space micromanagement.
That does not sound great, but it knows that I love No Man's Sky and I love Starfield. So Steam is like, you should play this. You should play this. I'm like,
are the reviews pretty good, or the Steam
only
reviews?
The user reviews? Yeah, the Steam reviews are at 91% positive from users.
That's great. Okay.
So yeah, people love it. So yeah, Starcom Unknown Space. I thought that was worth shouting out. There's a game called Self Loss, which has a really cool art style. Like a very indie game. It's one of those games that you would see during like a presentation, and then a few of us would probably admittedly check out a little bit. But like, it does have a really cool art style though. Like, go check out the art style for this game. It's called an emotional exploration game filled with rich lore set in a whale-worshipping, Slavic-inspired world.
I love emotional games.
Yeah, you like a good cry. Yeah, but yeah, it kind of has a little bit of like a dream-like, horror, like foggy world that you're exploring in a little rowboat. You're seeing creepy creatures and weird things. So to me, it looks like a game that if it's on PS Plus or Game Pass, 100% I'll get it. But it's a little steep at $25, even on sale. It's still at $21. The kind of game that I need to be less than 10 or on a service I subscribe to, then I'll play it. You know.
It gives me, like, especially like that little old man character. It kind of gives me a little bit of I need this goddamn game already, Tim. Little devil inside.
Does that game exist anymore?
Tim, I don't know.
It and Silksong are hanging out somewhere together.
Yeah, they are.
They ran away together. They ran off together and got married.
They're laughing at all of us right now, guys.
Speaking of crying, yeah.
Last but not least, at least as far as I know, and I wanted to highlight this because I played the demo for it, and I'm actually gonna buy it on the Switch. Although my Switch battery was dead, so it's charging up right now. But it's called Shogun Showdown. I know both of you love some good samurai action.
I wishlist this game immediately after you brought it up in the chat. So.
Yeah, one of my favorite little indie games of the last few years was Into the Breach. It's just a brilliant roguelike kind of tactics strategy game where it quickly throws you into a predetermined, like you're in this world of like these giant bugs that are invading Earth, and you have this different combos of robots that you're using, these giant mechs you're using to fight against them. Kind of has an Advanced Wars-ish vibe to it, but it's very roguelike. You're dropped in, you got to survive as long as you can. You got to try to upgrade a little by little as you go. Once you're dead, you do a brand new run and then try again. Because if you lose, the alien bugs have destroyed the Earth. So Into the Breach is brilliant. It's super fun, and as you unlock stuff, it's just a great, in my opinion, one of the better senses of advancement in a roguelike game. Roguelike games can feel very defeating when they're not done right, and it can feel like, ugh, I don't want to do this again. But when it's done brilliantly, like a Dead Cells, and I think Into the Breach is in that discussion. I think Rogue Legacy, both of those games are really good. Hades, like a lot of those games feed it to you in the right way, right, and it works. Anyway, I think that Shogun Showdown, so far, at least from the demo, really does that too. It is a side-scrolling version of this. You just have a couple of tiles on the ground. You can go left or right. every movement or thing that you do costs you a turn, and the enemy will do something too. And you have these little attacks, whether it's using your bow and arrow or throwing a throwing star or swinging with your sword. You have these little moves that you can do to attack enemies around you. And of course, the whole point is clear the stage, move on to the next one. And then over time, you get the ability to buy permanent upgrades or temporary boosts for that run. And it's just really, I love the art style too. The art style, the pixelated kind of art looks really cool in it too. So
yeah,
Shogun Showdown is great. It's not super expensive either. But I love games like this. It's really fun. So,
yeah, I'm getting this one immediately. Looks very cool.
Yeah, I recommend that one. I also recommend Into the Breach. I've talked to.
I love that game.
Yeah, I know you loved it, Kyle. You were on team Into the Breach for that one for sure. There's too many people that I've talked to that I'm like, you haven't even looked at it. Like, at least go look at it.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's Advanced Wars Pacific Rim. You know, like you.
Dude, yes.
Go look
Advanced
at it.
Wars Pacific Rim with like little touch of roguelikeness to it. Yeah. It's great.
That's an interesting description.
Yeah, I like that. So anyway, a lot of good new stuff that, of course, is already hitting us here in the month of September. Lots of fun stuff to play, obviously. A couple of announcements. I know there were a lot of headlines. I know there were a lot of things announced last week with Opening Night Live. I think that was last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago, maybe. And then, of course, we had the Nintendo Direct. So we've had kind of a couple of episodes in a row with lots of announcements and trailers and updates and stuff. This week, less of that and a little more of just news breaking. One of them I thought was funny because it's like Warner telling us all something that we've all been telling Warner as fans, like with our money. Like, okay, stuff like Hogwarts Legacy, yes. Some of your other garbage that you're trying to pump out, no. But they did say, I think this was let me read this, their chief financial officer, listen to this name, Gunnar Weidenfels.
That's a name. Yeah, that's a name.
Yeah. So he says, obviously a successor to Hogwarts Legacy is one of the biggest priorities in a couple of years down the road. So there's certainly a significant growth contribution from that game business and our strategic outlook here. Now, this is with at a Bank of America conference. So this was not at all a games conference. He's not trying to get cheers from the gamers. This is all financial.
He's letting the investors know we're okay, guys.
I love hearing him say, like, obviously this game gave us a nice bump in our growth contribution. So we're going to be leaning back into that again.
Yeah.
Like, it gives me a lot of excitement for, okay, cool. Like, even the big wigs, the big suits who don't care about games at all, they're also on board with us getting more Hogwarts Legacy. So I'm excited for that. He did say a couple of years down the road, which is not surprising. I wouldn't expect another Hogwarts game till maybe the PS6, or like towards the end of the PS5. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't expect it super soon.
That first game was being rumored and like for a long time, and
about that game years before it actually got announced. Yeah.
I agree. So not a surprise, but also, yeah, cool. I'm glad it's happening.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that WB is not being like, yeah, we're making it, we're doubling down on Suicide Squad or whatever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We're making a second one, guys.
But listen, we do like to try to stay positive on this podcast. We love the things that we love, and sometimes we'll go on little rants, but for the most part, we are cool with other people enjoying things we don't like. I think, for the most part, that's our vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there are times when like stuff like Suicide Squad or this next game we're talking about, it's hard not to be a little bit like, I'm kind of glad it didn't do great. Like, I want them to do other things because I just love the Rocksteady team. Anyway, so let's talk about a game that did not do great. And by not great, I mean like one of the biggest disasters in recent memory in terms of like the size of budget and resources allocated to this thing. And then its catastrophic failure within the first 2 weeks of release. And that is Concord, who the servers, I think they're getting shut down this month, right? Is it September?
They're shut down already.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
They are now shut down. No one can play this game
Didn't
anymore.
even make the weekend, You can
as of the 6th of September.
Oh my gosh. So no one can play this game now anymore. And I got to start with the positive here. We have to talk positive because there's some things to criticize for sure. But I've heard this said a lot. I'm not the only one to say this. I think it's easily one of the best moves for your customer base to just issue a refund. It's almost like a refund. Yeah. I know that's a huge financial hit, but it's also like, yeah, okay, we were wrong. We were wrong on this one. Like, that's what it feels like, and it's so much easier to not be mad at them long term because it's like, yeah, but they refunded us for it. So
Just kidding. They're ripping the Band-Aid off, yeah. And I forget who came forward. I think it was the Genshin Impact people or something like that, where they were like, and I don't remember the figures, but they're like, it costs this much money to run a game like that monthly. And like, so that means it would need this amount of players or money to even keep the lights turned on. And like, they didn't even sell enough copies to like, you know what I mean, to like even make a month. So
I think their copies were in like the...
It was 25,000.
30,000, 25,000.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, it was not.
I
think concurrent players were like 700. Like
that's so bad.
It's like people did not want this game. And like.
Yeah, so I'm curious from your guys' perspective, because all of us keep a pretty good like finger on the pulse of gaming industry, and we know what we like. We kind of feel like we, for the most part, know what a lot of gamers like. What do you guys think kept people from wanting this game, first of all, outside of whatever Sony said? Like, if people looked at this game, what do you think it was that kept people from wanting to get in there and spend money and buy this thing?
I think the easy answer is just oversaturated market, but I think it's layered. I think it's obviously a bunch of things, but I feel like that's, the first stop we can take is it's an oversaturated market in a dead genre, for the most part.
The hero shooter specifically.
You're going after like Overwatch, which no one really cares about anymore.
Apex Legends, which is still a huge hit.
And Apex Legends is still a huge hit, and you're vying for Fortnite time. You know what I mean? I know it's not the exact same thing, but like that's what the kids are playing right now. For free, mind you, which I think was another barrier was the $40 price tag just to get in. I heard the cosmetics were awful. People were showing legendary or ultimate unlocks for characters in Overwatch compared to the same kind of tier of unlocks in Concord, and it was laughable. You know what I mean?
Really?
So I think, and also I think the very first showing, you not going gameplay first and you going, here's a bunch of characters I don't know of, like care about them. I think that was just the wrong move. I think it was just bad marketing. So I think it was just the perfect storm of bad, and we live in a really cynical age, you know what I mean? Where it's like it's really hard to like get an actual real take on something. So if you come out and you're easy to make fun of, which sadly this was, people buried this game, and it was almost like you liking it was kind of a scarlet letter a little bit. You were the weird guy who liked Concord, you know what I mean? So like it quickly becomes that online, and I feel like people just don't. I don't know. They make up their mind so quick these days about stuff. None of us got it, so it's like, and we cover the gamut in terms of, what games we play and stuff like that. And not one of us will even question for a second about getting this game. So
I think none of us care if others do and they enjoy it. It's like, hey, more power to you, man. Go do your thing.
Yeah, I don't think I was cheering for this game to die.
Same.
But it's not surprising at all. You know what I mean? I feel like the writing was on the wall. But like, do you think there's any other reasons of why? Like, I mean, I feel like
there is. There absolutely is. I can list two things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the two words. There's the two. Well, one's an acronym and the other one's a word, which is woke and DEI.
Woke.
Explain.
Yeah. Yep. Elaborate.
Oh well, because that's well, like when you're just like someone, because I know you guys don't spend like a ton of time on Twitter, and I don't either by any means. Mm-hmm. But when you scroll
only
through enough,
because it's news I can trust. Keep going.
Yeah. But like when you scroll through enough, and just to be like, let me just see if like what I think people think about this is true. And yeah, anytime you went into a comment section. Of any sort, or like the Twitter thread of like, oh, here's some news on Concord. It was woke this, woke that bullshit.
Are we racist against green people now? Is that what's going on? Yeah. I don't remember there being a lot of like diversity in Concord. I just remember there being a lot of like a robot, some aliens.
Yeah, what was it about it that you think rubbed people the wrong way in that vein? Because I don't remember.
I think people with anything are quick to go here. You know what I mean? About anything these days.
Well,
so yeah.
Also,
so true.
If another person uses the word woke incorrectly, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. I swear to God.
No, that word doesn't mean what you think it means
Stay
anymore.
with us, buddy.
It has been co-opted into this new nebulous term that is just said as like how we used to say, and I'm not saying this, I'm just as an example, how we used to say like gay, back in the day. Like that's gay.
It's become an insult.
Now that's what woke is. It's just this like umbrella thing that's just like, I don't like it, it's woke. And you don't really mean anything other than I just don't like it,
It's basically a different word to just say like I'm this type of hateful person instead. It's basically that.
It usually does come from a specific type of people too, for sure.
Yes,
it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing with because to be honest, I didn't see, other than that initial viewing and then just like snippets and clips of or like screenshots, I mean, of this game. Like I'm picturing in my head like a more curvy woman character in the game that had like this kind of colorful spacesuit type of armor thing. So that leans into then the DEI part, the inclusive, like adding realistic people into the game is a problem.
Sorry, but isn't Overwatch and Apex Legends like already there and still super
there's characters like that too, but yeah, I mean, and maybe people do say that about, but like because Overwatch has already been a thing,
you get grandfathered in for some of this stuff.
Yeah, you apparently, exactly.
Yeah.
But like it's like, man, there's like this like poison in the internet right now of like, if you basically with female characters, if you don't look like Eve from Stellar Blade, then it's labeled as woke and DEI.
I can see that.
Or if you don't look like Kratos, like if a male character doesn't look like Kratos, then it's DEI and woke. And it's like it's
just what like.
But can we all agree though? Kratos. Super hot.
I mean,
it's I want to look like that when I'm 130, when I'm 1,000 years old or whatever. Yeah.
But like legit, the I mean, you guys know that I'm like I'm just like the kind of guy that's just like I just hate the hate. I mean, and I know you guys are too, but like it just really
I know.
bothers me because it's just there's so much bullshit going on in the world. Do we have to add fabricated hate about a video game? It's all like ones and zeros.
This
at the end of the day.
way beyond. I mean, like you could duck into a video about a cat, like a cute cat video, and someone's not feeding this cat. You know, like some asshole like pops in. 100%. You know what I mean? So it's like we live in just a really cynical age.
It's the Karens of the internet, and I think they exist in every worldview. So like, I understand from the point of view of saying like, oh, it's these bigoted conservatives, which by the way, most of my family and friends would consider themselves conservatives and not even a little bit bigoted. And I don't see that from them at all on a personal level, but I think they get pegged that way just because it's like, oh, you're one of those Christians who hates all gay things. And it's like, no.
Sure. I get that. Yeah.
So it's not fair at all. And on the other hand, I think anytime you have a strong masculine character or a ridiculously attractive female character, you might not see it as much, Dan, but it goes the other way too, where it's like, oh, cool. So we're just going back to old gender stereotypes. Like,
right.
It goes the other direction too.
Stellar Blade got that. It literally
Stellar Blade did get that. You're right.
I know. But I think there's just a Karen. I'm sorry for anyone named Karen. I love you. If your name's Karen, you're probably great. But like the Karen personality that, of course, has become a hilarious meme in most videos that I've seen. I think it exists in every worldview, and it ruins it for those who like just kind of don't care. It misrepresents huge groups of people. Now everyone thinks that, oh, if you believe this, you're just like this person. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not like that. So I think it's really unfair and unfortunate. I will say this. I think you have a valid point, Dan, for sure. But if the game was really good, I don't think this would have been a problem.
Yeah, but apparently the game is kind of good. Like the moment to moment. I hear like it's modeless. You know, I hear like there's a lot of things giving it that 7 that it kind of has on Metacritic. You know, but like But like, how would anybody know if it's good because only 25,000 people bought it? You know what I mean? So there's that too.
Were like empty apparently.
Well, and like either Easy A or GameScoop brought this up, but it's like they weren't even at Gamescom like really pushing this game. Like Sony literally sent this game out to die with no marketing.
Had a custom controller.
Like VR,
you know, like why not give it to streamer? Like this is a pretty common move. You get a bunch of streamers to play it for free, and it's like there's so many ways to like get people interested. You partner with people. You know, you get a guy like, and I'm dating myself because I don't know any of the new kids, like Ninja on board, you know, to like hawk your game as like the new game or whatever. And like, they didn't do any of that, you know. I think that they, you know, I think that, I don't know, like it just, whether or not.
If they didn't because of all of the bullshit on the internet. I'm wondering if when they showed that game, they saw all of the negativity and they were like,
it's hard though, because like, let's say you're going after a demographic with this game and you go online and like you're trying to get the vibe or whatever. Who are you listening to? Because as we just said, it's coming from every angle, from every voice, from every side, from every character, from every, you know, so like how do you even listen to like something? How do you have your finger on the pulse of anything if it's just noise? You know what I mean?
Like most of the voices, whether it's about a new Star Wars show or a new game or whatever, a lot of the voices I see criticizing it the loudest, they don't watch or play that stuff anyway, but they want their voice heard in that space. And so I usually ignore those voices on either side of whatever the big argument happens to be. I care about like what people who love this either genre of game or IP, I care what they think about it. Yeah. So like, for example, you guys have heard of Asmongold, one of the most famous like streamers and like content creators. Sometimes his videos are
dirty dude. Right, there's a whole joke now. He's just a filthy dude.
Yeah, people want his room as a Power Wash Simulator DLC.
I saw that. I saw.
I can smell this thought. I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah. But like he's very popular. I've watched a few of his videos because he does a lot of Souls-like games, and I think it's funny to watch him play those. He gets real mad and like whatever. I find him to be somewhat entertaining. He's very nerdy. Like, but I anyway. So I understand the draw of someone like him. But anyway, you've got these. When these really popular people have strong opinions about, for example, he has very strong opinions about Star Wars Outlaws. Just from the first trailer, when he already claimed this game was garbage. And so like I just kind of like, I'm not going to listen to his opinion on a game he's never played, will never play, and already just decided that he doesn't like the way Ubisoft does their pre-orders. He thinks it's like predatory, and he probably has some valid reasons for really thinking Ubisoft is gross with how they do their additions and their layers of like, hey, get it early if you pay us $40 extra, like whatever. I think there's some legitimacy to not liking that. I think it's ridiculous to write off a whole game. So he's already decided this game's garbage, and so it doesn't matter. And he did a stream, and I watched like 20 minutes of it, like the replay of it when he played Star Wars Outlaws, and it seemed to me like he was having a decent enough time. But of course, afterwards, he was like, "There's not one thing in this game that I like in a video game," So he already just didn't like.
Yeah, and we may not want to admit it, but influencers influence. A million people watching this guy play this game, shitting on it. They'll just go, "Yeah, I don't want it either. He's always right."
But the thing is, like, anyone with any kind of discernment could be like, that dude already knew he wouldn't like it. He didn't want to like it. And he doesn't really like Star Wars stuff from what I've seen. So I don't really care about, I care more about what does Kyle think about this? Kyle's a Star Wars dude. And if Kyle tells me, yeah, I don't know, if you're not really into Star Wars, like, and even if you are, it's a stretch. Like there's been some Star Wars stuff that you've kind of given me the maybe if you really want to, but it's not the best. And then I know like, all right, maybe I don't have to run out and see that or play that right away. But there's other times when I'm like, hey, Kyle says it's great, and I play it or watch it, and I'm like, turns out it was pretty great. Like I should have listened to the person who loves the thing. So I don't know. Sometimes it's a matter of what voices are you listening to. I'm not saying that the Sony execs know who to listen to, by the way. They definitely don't. Like
yeah. And I'm saying it's also hard. You know what I mean? How do you figure out how to listen to, like, I do not want that job of community manager or whatever, where you're like having to be in the pit, of social media. And again, just the noise of all the rhetoric and all this stuff. The political this, the political that, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, how do you come out of that and go, hey, I have a real tangible idea of what's going on with gamers right now. You don't. And I feel like this is a problem with everything. I feel like we're all very cynical about everything. I don't think it's a video game problem. I think it's you brought up Star Wars stuff that extends to TV and movies and yada yada.
Marvel.
We get these like quick moments of like, oh, everyone likes Deadpool and Wolverine, and everyone likes Astro Bot or whatever,
Yeah,
but like
it's so nice.
Now they're just like secluded moments though, and there's not a lot of them. They don't happen very often, So
everyone loved Hi-Fi Rush, right? It was like, yay, everyone.
People like that. Yeah, we're high on it. Yeah.
But not Xbox though.
I know. There's always one.
But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's just it really. It's just I don't know if I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, but it feels like there's just this weird like downward spiral going on right now with like these sort of things, and maybe it's just because it's extending from other things. The political climate just feels kind of scary, like even scarier than 4 years ago. But it's just it feels like everybody has a tinfoil hat on and is like paranoid about everything, doesn't believe in anything.
Yeah,
everything's an agenda
anymore.
Yeah, everything's an agenda.
People are finding it either fun or I don't know. So people are getting something out of like creating these narratives, that like. Don't exist at all.
That whole baby ink, whatever it is, didn't help. Like I barely know anything about that. Yeah, Sweet Baby, but that plays a whole thing into the woke DEI because people heard this thing called Sweet Baby Inc. So now they assume that this consulting group or whatever they are just like in everything. Anything that's like, it looks different than what you want to see. Well, they probably have their hands in it. So
well, it doesn't
that's
help
the paranoia part,
it doesn't help that like all it takes is one person to misrepresent an entire team. And so like for example, when I don't know, I don't want to dive too much into a Star Wars thing because I know some people liked and some people hated the Acolyte show. It's totally fine. But I think the director set them up for a very divisive show when she was so outspoken about how she's going to make this the gayest Star Wars ever. We're going to queer it up and we're going to make white men so uncomfortable. Like a lot of that was said in jest, but you alienated a huge part of your audience and you created division before the show was even out. So, and I think that happens sometimes with a game creator too, where they're like, hey, I just can't wait. We're going to include all these non-white characters when we finally are going to do it. And you immediately start to make people go like, ooh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I understand what the heart is for it. And I think they're trying to represent a team that's saying, hey, let's make it represent everyone because everyone's different colors and different cultures. And let's represent all the cultures that have been missing. I love that approach. I always have. But when you say it in a way that makes it sound like you guys have had enough, we're taking it away from you, you're alienating that group, even if you don't mean to. And I know this sounds so silly, and I know maybe it's on them. I totally get it. I'm just saying you're going to absolutely alienate and piss off a huge section of people. You're going to activate the people that you're talking about who are looking for this stuff to create content about. You activate them to now just do episode after episode after episode criticizing this thing. Oh, look, now it's gone woke. And it's like, why did that person have to say that? They could have just shut up and made a really good thing. And why did they have to do that? So I do think sometimes it's not anyone's fault and it's just jerks online. And sometimes you bring it upon yourself because you announce to everyone how much better you are, and you're going to help them become better too. And that
and sometimes it's the headline. Sometimes people in the news just go, hey, this person said this one thing in the vacuum.
That's the worst.
But I'm gonna what kind of happened with this Star Wars stuff? Like that wasn't the marketing. These things were just said in an interview in passing.
And they pull it out.
And they pull it out of context and they go, this is her main goal, and they create narratives around everything. So it's like, I think people say that stuff, because they have to, because that's the world that we live in now. And then people take that stuff and turn it into sensational headlines.
You're right.
That just, like you said the right word, that activate people way before the thing is even beyond concept or anything like that.
And so everyone involved is now in an unfair position of you have to now defend your thing when all you wanted to do was make a fun space pretend story or a fun space pretend game. Or a fun game that actually stars a girl from a new culture you've never really played from that culture before. I just wanted to do that, or whatever the thing is. But because of this statement that was taken out of context or said when they shouldn't have said it, whatever the situation is, you're behind the 8 ball now. Now you have to defend it and explain it and reword it and convince people who have already decided they hate you and your product. It just sucks, man.
And I will say you have to watch what you're saying now. So maybe these things were said in good faith, but maybe don't say that stuff, maybe just don't say anything and let the trailer come out, I feel like maybe we just, and I'd say it's about James Gunn all the time. Everyone hates James Gunn now because he head in DC and doing Superman and he fired Henry Cavill and yada yada. Everyone just hates him now. And all he does is talk. And I'm like, dude, just shut up. Shut up. You're just
shut up.
You're just feeding everybody. You're just feeding all the hate and everything like that. Just put out your trailer, put out your thing.
Yeah.
And just let that speak for you. And I feel like we don't live in that era anymore where we just since everything is so social media and click-based and I have to create a moment in time today that brings attention to my product or my thing or my idea or whatever, that you have to go out of your way to say this stuff, and I don't know. It just maybe we don't need to be so chatty. I don't know.
Maybe.
I do think it is, at least this is just how I feel. I think it is mainly the other people. I think they should be a person should be allowed to say a thing
sure,
how you were saying, Tim, if a dev comes out and it's this game we're trying to raise up these type of people, so see you later white dudes or something like that, stupid whatever. And for me personally, I'll hear that and kind of be like, well, that's kind of all right. But I'm still going to go play that thing and give it a chance if I think it looks cool. Because to me, I'm a well-balanced, normal, decent person. And I just don't care.
If the game is good. If the game is
right,
good.
Yes. But I'm saying I'm not going to
good or whatever. Yeah.
Take those words and be like, well, excuse me.
It's okay to roll your eyes at something, but to activate with hate I feel like
yes,
that's like the line.
Yes,
and then
you're crossing lines. You know,
the big thing is everyone starts to. They decide people who are activated. They now start to gatekeep. Well, we won't support this. Support, show them with your wallet, and it's kind of like, well, I don't want to.
It becomes like an army. They like form an army.
Yeah, right.
You know?
And then
but the other side grows to it. You know what I mean? They militarize in a film.
It just
similar
escalates and escalates.
Yeah, but it's out of like, well, we have to save this thing. Like we have to all band, and like it just becomes this like really weird arms race that like I don't want to be a part of. Like I just like watching stuff. I don't want to get involved with like having to choose a side and fight for why I like this thing for everything.
Right.
And like that's what I feel like people want out of you these days. People want you to they want you to choose a side, they want you to have a reason,
and
they want you to really defend it and feel really like big about it. And I'm like, I don't feel big I feel big about a lot of stuff, but like I don't like to share it all the time, like same. I don't feel like I need to defend like, oh, you didn't like this thing, oh, you did, well, why not? I don't even like asking that question. Like we've talked about this before, like it's okay to just not like something and not have a reason for it at all. You don't have to justify it to anybody or yourself. You could feel your way through life, and that's totally fine.
That's right.
I truly believe that, but I just feel.
For example, just to keep it, I'm trying to keep it lighthearted. I don't care if people liked the show or hated the show, but the reason I stopped watching Acolyte is not why a lot of people probably think I stopped watching it. It's because I didn't really like it. I just wasn't liking the show.
The quality of
it was just something about it. It wasn't hitting with me. It didn't feel like the High Republic that I wanted to see. It didn't feel like it just. I was just like, I just wasn't interested, and I also didn't want to wait between weeks. It was a combination of the two things. Like I didn't want to. When the next episode came out, I was like, maybe I'll catch up, and I just stopped watching it. I didn't make a decision. This was my last episode. I didn't do that. I just stopped watching it.
You tweeted it.
Funny enough, that Disney didn't make a decision to cancel the show either. They just didn't renew it.
They just didn't. Exactly. Sure. It's the same with the game. Yeah. Sometimes I just like, I just kind of stopped playing that game. It's not because I hate it. It's not because it's the worst or they did something morally wrong in my eyes. I just stopped playing the game for who knows what reason. I just stopped.
Right. But the internet would want you to
explain yourself.
Write a novel about it and like figure choose a side, and it better be because of something woke, or you're not on our side, you're on the other side. It's so insane to me. It's okay, guys. It's okay to just feel things internally and just move about your life without making a fuss about it. Like it's so okay to do that. Like I wish people would just do that more. And be a sport, you know what I mean? Read the room, all the stuff we've talked about.
Doesn't it feel too much like politics? Like it's kind of like, I've got really close friends and family who are, staunch Democrats, staunch Independent, and staunch Republicans. I've got kind of a wide variety of different friends and family, just like I'm sure you guys do, who you've got some folks who you're connected with who are very conservative, very liberal, and somewhere in between. Most people do. Most people have like, my dad's a Fox News guy, like Shane Gillis says, and my cousin's a MSNBC guy, and then my weird stepbrother is he is a communist, or whatever the thing is, right? Like you've got all kinds of different.
It takes all types,
And I feel like these discussions, they feel too much like
tribalism.
It does, yeah. It's tribalism at its core. It's all those things that just make me feel icky, like whenever I'm talking about something, I just like. There was a moment like when you were growing up and liking Star Wars got you bullied, just because we're talking about Star Wars. And then there was a moment where it was kind of mainstream and it was cool to like Star Wars for like a bit. And now it's kind of like shut up if you like Star Wars again, you know what I mean? And like that goes for a lot of things, like if you are walking out to the world and you want to talk about liking X, Y, and Z, like there will be people there to go.
I learned it's the NFL too, because I was like, the NFL season starts this week, and people were like, you still support them? And I was like, I don't support them.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know what to say to you.
What do they do? What do they do?
But some people just in their minds, like they were activated about a certain thing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We're not at war. It's entertainment, everybody. Chill.
It's kind of like
level conversation.
Oh my gosh!
All that with the difficulty levels, the same thing. If you don't support the notion that every game should have difficulty levels, then you're part of the problem, and you're not part of it being inclusive for people who can't play these games and blah blah blah. Like it's it just never stops. It's always something
about Apple phones and Samsung phones, you know what I mean, and Android phones. Like, we got an Android guy in our chat.
Or we fight about which Mario is best.
Yeah,
I forgot to show this earlier. Look,
yeah,
look,
I mean, so I feel like people activate all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if you get mad about what color a chat bubble is, while you're in a text message, like you're an insane person.
The like dress. Remember the gold, the what was it, black, blue, gold, white dress debate?
Yeah,
like literally arguing about the color of the dress,
or the sound clip of Laurel or Yanni or whatever.
Oh God, yeah.
Something needle.
I liked it for a week. I realized how much of us don't realize that everybody perceives things differently. I was like, there was a whole week where everyone was like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean? What do you do? I don't see." I'm like, "Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? You should be asking questions about that, not
so true
about a dress, though."
It's kind of like I mentioned to someone who I knew was a big, like they've always followed women's basketball and they are like big fans and they've always loved the WNBA. And I was like, hey, I've actually watched a few games this year, like all the stuff with this this new rookie class. And I think Caitlin Clark's like watching Steph Curry and Jason Williams back when I used to watch the NBA more. And like her passes are unreal. And then you've got some of these shooters who, because of Caitlin Clark, I've now been introduced to some of these other female players who are incredible shooters that are just, I'm like, hey, WNBA is actually kind of fun to watch. Some of their games are pretty intense. I made this comment, but like they were really upset that I watched it because of Caitlin Clark, because they just don't like her.
Yeah, right.
So, and I don't want
the whole industry be damned, because
I was like, okay, I thought you'd be excited that I like a thing that you like now. And I was just telling you what my kind of
I know. Isn't that the worst? Like when you come prepared, you're like, I know they like this thing. I'm going to tell a story that's adjacent to that. And then when they just shit on you, it's just like, well, why do I even wake up in the morning?
Also, like Bill Burr's newest stand-up had the whole bit about the WNBA. And he's like, listen, the WNBA is failing because you women are at each other's throat and you're not even supporting the thing that's for you. You're part of the fucking problem. Like, it's like, so you came in like being like, hey, WNBA, and they were like,
well, that is kind of happening. I didn't know that when I first started kind of watching some of the games here and there. I didn't know that Caitlin Clark was that divisive of a character in this WNBA world. Mainly because like a lot of people were like, well, there are players who came before her. It's not just her. I'm like, well, I don't think anyone's thinking that. Like when Michael Jordan came into the league, no one thought, cool, Kareem never existed, and Magic.
Yeah, but people forget that Michael Jordan played during a time where the biggest legends of basketball played all at the same time.
They did. But like when he came in, he elevated it to a worldwide recognition that took NBA players to now they
one person usually does that. Yeah, one person usually.
Tiger Woods for golf. Like there's these pivotal people that hit a sport that makes it go just skyrocket. Or pivotal moments in a sport. And so anyway, so to me, that's like, hey, maybe Caitlin Clark's like there. Maybe she won't be the best.
Ronda Rousey did it for UFC.
Ronda Rousey.
Like, it's just like, isn't that good? Don't you want more people to be watching this sport? Why are you gatekeeping because you don't like a player? Like,
isn't like
you're weird. You're a weird person.
Stone Cold Steve Austin might not be the best in-ring performer. No one ever actually mentions him in the conversation of best in-ring performer, but he took the WWF to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He's never talked about it. I
started watching around that time. Like that's when I started watching. Like
So, and I think to bring it back to gaming type stuff, I do think there are times that we lose the forest for the trees a little bit as we're looking at stuff like Concord and why it was shut down. We get too focused in on, was it for this reason? Was it for that reason? Should they have done it? Should they have not done it? All right. I do think if I look at the big picture, some valuable lessons were learned. I think Sony learned a lot about the genres they've been really targeting, and we already know that they scaled back their plans. Right? They were
wake up call for sure.
They were. I think was it a year ago they announced that they're actually scaling back their live service plans.
They had announced 12, and they're like, we canceled like 8 of those.
We had the Jimmy Ryan era there, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw Kyle Bossman's newest video. He the whole thing is about Concord. It's amazing, and he talks about the was it the buffoon or something, and literally the Jim Ryan picture pops up in the corner. So he like basically is blaming it on Jim Ryan because it seems like that's what it was. Jim Ryan came in, and like all
mobile
of this
and live service.
All of that shenanigans and things got weird, and here we are now with like the after effect of it.
It sounds like that's what happened with Last of Us multiplayer too. You know what I mean? Like it seems like there's a lot of casualties here.
The
half of Bungie's gone now. Like they're killing Bungie. Like it's just like it's the wake up call. Like how many times do you learn this lesson before you go?
Yep.
All right, we got to change
the positive things he brought, I think, were things like amazing PC ports. Like Sony games are finally hitting other platforms.
Yeah.
So like under his leadership, at least, whether or not that was him, I don't know. But like the idea of expanding
Push
your
for
audience,
that was good.
the push for that really did help, I think, expand the audience. I know not all their games have been hits on Steam, but some of them have. Some of them have certainly been big, and they found second life. Like I think Days Gone found some second life on Steam, which is really cool. But I do wonder, and I'm curious what you guys think too before we wrap up this conversation about this. What do you think this means for what are we going to see from Sony in the future? Do you think they're going to be a lot more quiet on this front of live service stuff? Do you think nope, they're not done yet? Like, what do you guys think when it comes to this type of game?
I'd be shocked if they ever announced something like this ever again. To be honest, I would. I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Would you be upset? Would you be like, "What are you guys doing?"
I wouldn't be upset. That's crazy. Yeah.
So like, but they still have
cry.
Bungie though, right? Like, do we know anything about Bungie? Like, if things have been canceled behind the scenes? Like, do we know anything?
Yeah. The
layoffs
game got canceled. I thought, right? Didn't the Marathon live service game?
I don't know if it's official, but I know that it's like pretty much canceled.
And they fired a bunch of alumni there that have been around in Bungie forever, like a lot of creative types. Like it's like Jesus. Bungie's like a shell of like what it was, you know, which is so sad.
It's not officially canceled, but everyone's like it's got to be
okay.
Like, it's not officially canceled.
Let's not say it is.
I think from all of this, for me, like. And the reason why I get so like kind of like heated about it and like is like, and I think it's mainly this year. If everything that has happened this year had not happened, I think I'd be a little more kind of like, all right, yeah, like this was not a good idea. Y'all made a mistake. You learn from your lessons. We keep it moving. But for me, I'm looking at it through the lens of like, I'm concerned for these people in the studio because they're human beings and there's a good chance they're going to lose their jobs because studios have been closing left and right. So a very good chance they're just going to shut down this studio. I think they keep half the staff on
and make it a free-to-play game. I honestly think that's the route that they go. You know?
Maybe it circles
back around. You don't
around,
need that many people on staff. And I feel like, you fire all the art people because the game's already made, you know? So it's like you fire all these people who don't deserve it.
If you were to relaunch it as a free-to-play, would you say, hey, if you have a digital or physical copy of this game, even though you got a refund for it, would you give them like a special whatever pack or something? Like how would you do that to not make people pissed off?
You'd have to do something, I think. Yeah,
in-game currency, right? Something. If it goes free to play,
in-game currency
to buy,
maybe
like
you give them a pack of that
or something. Yeah, I don't know. You got to give them something, I think. Yeah.
10,000.
Yeah, I guess
you probably had to sign up through something. So like your email's probably already with them. So maybe they just drop that in your email before the game comes out.
You know what? That wouldn't be the worst thing ever. I think it might actually get a little bit of a second life. Speaking of second life with games, if they were to do something, maybe it would. But people, it's also just going to be back.
But you're not wasting money on marketing. You're not wasting money on you just don't do it. You just got to put it out or whatever. Yeah. But I think Sony's moved now. I was joking about it in the chat. You give all the money and resources you can to Insomnia, get that Wolverine game out immediately. You announce Uncharted 5. You do all the blowhardy stuff that everyone's gonna blow back on. Oh, now you're just making sequels while you're like big. Sure. Yeah, that's what you do when you're floundering. You go back to the big notable for sure ideas and you just push those for a little bit.
Could already be the case too, because I mean, there's definitely a potential there to set up for Uncharted 5, for example.
We know Last of Us 3 is in the work. They've been talking about that, so it's like we're gonna have an era of major high profile sequels, and like it or not, I mean that's kind of where we're going right now, I think, if I had to take a guess.
I just say one final thing about all this.
Do it.
At the end of the day, I don't think it's the best thing to celebrate it. It's okay to be like, yeah, this thing probably should have failed, and then you can learn the lessons and you need to learn. I don't think it's okay to celebrate it in like a we won, screw these people, because at the end of the day, like I just said, these people could potentially lose their jobs, and Sony's going to be just fine. They're a massive company that has a shit ton of money. They're just going to wake up the next day and just be on their yachts and whatever, and these people are going to get screwed.
Well, and that grave dancing is another symptom of society, because you see that permeate across everywhere. We got Acolyte canceled. Yes, we did it. There was so much. There's just a lot of grave dancing all over the place right now, and I totally agree. You don't think about how the impact of that is, or what the ramifications are of that type of stuff. This is a new IP. The whole industry just watched a new IP die.
Yeah,
how much courage do you have to summon to now be a team that wants to do a new IP? You know what I mean? So it's like these are things that happen outside of just this game as well. You know, so it's just be careful about what you're celebrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we might be celebrating the death of this entire industry right now. You know, like it very well could. We could very well be in the middle of that, and this just is another piece of that. You know, so like just chill out, go play. Animal Crossing or something that calms you. I don't know. Like,
good idea. Yeah. Animal Crossing is
I will say this. Yeah, you're right, Dan. That's a really good point. Not to celebrate that it failed. I do like when bad ideas don't work, because when they do, they're going to do more bad ideas, and it's going to continue. So I don't celebrate the failure of a company or their staff at all. I'm just like when a bad idea doesn't.
You brought up about recognizing the lessons, and like that's a good stance to have, is like what's the lesson to learn from this, like it's because not that like
bad lessons are learned all the time. Like when Eidos Montreal with Square Enix, they did Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which was an amazing game. It was one of my favorites of 2021, and it just didn't sell super well. It didn't sell horribly, but it certainly didn't sell super well, and Square ended up after that and Avengers kind of back to back. They kicked him to the curb to Embracer, to go be embraced over there. So, which we know Embracer's great at that. So, I look at that and I'm like, what a horrible lesson to learn. That that is single player, story driven, super high quality, high production value game set in a universe that most of us are now somewhat familiar with, thanks to the MCU. That I just thought was brilliant. I thought was great. More people should have played it than did. And the lesson learned was, we shouldn't do any more of that. I was like, no.
Right.
I think
you have to pay attention to the lesson.
I think it's more like I like when a good lesson is learned. It's probably the best way for me to phrase it.
Well, you have to make mistakes. Making mistakes is just part of life. That's part of being a human being. You learn from those mistakes, and you grow, and hopefully you get better, and so on and so forth. But in this case, like a lot of in the industry with like free to play stuff, there's so much free to play stuff. It's like, well, because we can bank in all the money from all the whales and everything. But it's like, do we really just want a bunch of free to play games? Is that what we want our future to be? Just free to play games?
I certainly
that's where we're going. Like that could happen. We could wake up into a world that's like that. So I mean, I am glad that lessons are being learned, for sure. And I feel like, again, everybody's watching, and like something is taken from this. I just hope it's not the wrong lesson. I hope it's I hope Sony doesn't go, well, we could try this 3 more times and see if one of them work. Like that would suck. Yeah,
because what did happen with Eidos Montreal is, of course, they were with Embracer. They announced a new Deus Ex game that was super exciting, and then that all just kind of,
we were all excited about that. That was
collapsed, fun. And then now like Embracer apparently just has a shell of that company still left. Like they've fired most of that staff.
And they changed their name, didn't they? Didn't they cut into 2 different companies or something like that?
They might be
to consolidate debt.
Yeah, so as it currently exists, it's currently still lists and has a website as Eidos Montreal as part of the Embracer group. And they just, as far as I know, the only thing that's listed now in their current work is they're providing support for the new Fable game to Playground Games, just development support with like the 3 people they probably still have on staff. I don't know.
We're really good at open world games, so I'm glad that they're there, I guess.
Whatever. But anyway, so I don't like when the wrong lessons are learned. I do like when the right ones are learned, and I hope that team is given a chance to do something else, because they certainly had the visual and kind of like personality going for them with that game. I just think truly the genre was the mistake. I think the genre was the mistake. I really do. I think they could have had something.
Years late to a genre that is not growing, so.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. So anyway, next time just do a match 3 game and put it on mobile. Everyone will be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Do a card game or something like that. Those are big. Yeah.
Anyway,
the mobile game.
I do think it'll be interesting to see what Sony will say. I do think now's a great time for them to announce that PS5 Pro that's been rumored, because you can kind of start to distract people a little bit from.
I know, yeah. Play R, nothing, on PS5 Pro. Like, what are you showing off with that game?
Astro Bot.
That system. Yeah. Astro Bot runs at 120 hertz.
Astro Bot. You've got that. Plus, you've got, I think, Phantom Blade Zero's coming out next year too, right? You can show that one a little bit. That game looks awesome.
There's a bunch of rumors that Death Stranding 2 is going to be like a better on PlayStation 5 Pro marketing, and I'm just like, it's not. It better not be. Don't.
It will be.
Kojima technology, bro.
Yeah. Because I don't think Kojima sells. I honestly know Death Stranding sold pretty well, but I don't think that's a system seller. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
I think that's a pretty artsy fartsy niche, game still.
Although this one looks like it has more shooting in it though, so it could be maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
People do like their shooting. I do think that it would do better this time around because the first game seems to have picked up more of a fan base over the years since it was released. Like at first,
time has been very kind to that game.
I think it has too. Yeah, it's still a showpiece for.
I think it got a lot of life on PC. Like that's a PC player. You know what I mean? Like there are some weird gamers on PC, and like those gamers like Kojima. You know what I mean? Like they like weird, like avant-garde stuff like that. So it's like, or at least a big enough group of them. I don't want to generalize the whole PC community does that, but but like a big enough group, likes that type of stuff. So. Yeah,
I'm one of them now. One of those weird PC.
Those are my people. Yeah.
That's you, Tim. He's talking about you.
He's talking about me. No, but you're right. Like PC gamers are very, like, dude. I've sat and played entire simulation games that have no business taking up my time. I'm like, well, I have to secure the border, so I'm now a border security guy in a Russian country in the simulator game. For some reason,
I like being real snooty about stuff now because I could play some PC games. So it's like. When people get really into like Arcade Paradise, I'm like, I played that last year when it came out on PC. You lowly console people are just now getting something so perfect.
I'm playing at 120 frames per second.
Yeah.
It's like when Hades 2 I'm gonna guess will have a full release in 2025, maybe even late 2025 if I had to guess for that game. And it's gonna hit consoles. It'll be probably on Switch again because it was a huge hit on the Switch. The first game was. And I can't wait to be like, oh, you mean that 2024 game that I played?
Right.
The same thing happened with Darkest Dungeon 2. Like, people are just now getting that on most consoles now. And PC users are like, we've been playing that game for like 3 years. Oh
my gosh, I forgot about that game. It's
yeah. You guys are just getting to it. Cute.
Yeah. Can't wait to get the definitive edition.
Yeah.
I like that our versions of PC people are also a little bit California sassy.
Yeah, way sassy. Yeah, that's pretty weird. Yeah.
No,
all of them.
I like it. All right, as far as like quick hits, things that we're playing and watching, mine are real short. Watched Kung Fu Panda tonight with the kids. It's fun. It's more Kung Fu Panda. It's a good time. It's on Peacock. If you guys are
okay. Yeah.
Watching it.
I like the Kung Fu Pandas.
I really liked. They introduced 2 new characters. The villain voiced by Viola Davis, who is awesome in everything that she does. I don't think I've ever seen or heard her in a role because I've heard her do other voice work too. That I'm like, oh, she's not a very good actress. Like she's amazing in everything she does. And then some people hate her. I actually think she's kind of funny in a weird way. Awkwafina.
I like Awkwafina. Yeah.
I think her voice for cartoons is actually pretty funny. Like
she does a lot of voice work. So
and her voice work is really funny. So anyway, she's a character in this too. And hey, listen, if for no other reason, go listen to Jack Black's version of "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" that he sings at the end of this.
Okay.
A remix of Britney Spears' classic.
Okay.
I'm glad that Jack Black he just jucks Borderlands is a total nightmare movie and it's not going to tarnish his career at all. People love Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
People will forget that he was in.
By the way,
so
can I just say the Minecraft trailer? I looks like it's bad. I don't know.
It's going to be Borderlands bad. Yeah, it's not going to do anything to his career.
Why does Jason Momoa look like that?
Why does Jason?
Because I don't care. Does the character look like that? I don't know.
He looks like a weird. He's like a jacked weird Barbie, right? Because he's got he's just a lot of pink.
It doesn't look.
So he's just like a weird Barbie dude. I don't know.
I don't know.
Best thing Jason Momoa did, by the way, that commercial where when he walks inside, he takes off all his fake muscles in his hair, and he's actually a scrawny bald dude.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite commercials of him. Yeah. And then I played a demo for a game that I thought looked awesome. The description was great. The visual style looked really cool, called Immortal Hunters. Kind of plays not great though. So looks cool, and I do like a good indie game. I like to support it when I get a chance, like Shogun Showdown, for example. But yeah, Immortal Hunters I can't give a recommend to. It does look cool though. It's got this Viking vibe, but yeah, it just doesn't play all that great. Dan, what about you? What are you playing or watching?
So actually, so before I get into it, Kyle, you finished Dragon's Dogma 2, right?
I'm still at the very, 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 very end.
Okay.
Like I just, all I need to do is just go.
Guys,
to the last
I just
thing.
installed it on my new PC. I'm going to start playing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm like, don't want to beat it because I'd be like, oh, but there's all this side stuff that I know I haven't done yet. You know,
yeah. But
there's hundreds of hours of side stuff.
I know this is Dan's turn, so I'm sorry, Dan, but I just gotta say, I was looking at my game of the year list. I was like, what do I think? Like, we're almost 75% of the way through. Where am I? Most years I kind of have an idea. And I was like, I actually kind of don't know. I've got probably 3 that I'm like, yeah. Like, of course, you got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, incredible. The Prince of Persia game, one of my favorites. And then maybe even something like Astro Bot is going to be up in that conversation. But I don't really have like that home run that to me personally is like, well, nothing's going to beat this game. Like I've had that a lot.
You haven't played Dragon's Dogma 2 yet.
So I was looking at the list of games from this year. I'm like, what am I missing? What have I skipped? This is a glaring omission on the games that I've spent. So
the Double D number 2.
There's always room for you to hate it, but I would be shocked if you hated it. It wouldn't offend me if you hated it.
Yeah.
But like, it would totally shock me. Like if you're like, it's not my kind of game. I'm like, it is. So, you just don't like it. And that's okay.
Yeah,
I do hope you like it though. Yeah.
It's such a massive game.
Were you going to bring up Dragon's Dogma? Did you beat it?
Yeah. Well, so I was asking you just to kind of get an idea of like where you're, if you fully finished it or not, because I'm like, I beat the game because like you fight the dragon, of course, right? There's the dragon, and then this kind of like, oh yeah, celebrate, woo! And then like you're in this you're like in that like hall in the castle. You're in that like whatever where everyone's kind of congregating and celebrating, and there's like actual credits starting to roll, but like if you pay attention, like because you can either like sit down or you pay attention to your surroundings and you can like talk to someone.
Oh,
and
there's an end game.
So did you not get to?
No, I'm at the point of no return where the guy is like, hey, like if you continue, like
finish anything up that you want to go do.
Everything shut off. Yeah. So there's like a couple more main missions like beyond.
Okay.
It's like when I forget exactly what happened. It's the guy who's like in that mountain or whatever, like you have to give him something and like that it's been a while since I played it. So
the Godsway?
Yeah, the Godsway. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I did all of that stuff. All I have to do is just like I've returned it to him. I've done everything. I just have to like say yes. Okay. Say yes to his offer.
I literally did like all of that today. Like I basically I was like at the end. And I was like, I want to just do the main missions.
I'm told I could like next session I play it. I'm beating.
Yeah.
What someone.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, like you. All right, so now I kind of feel bad because I probably said too much. I'm sorry.
I don't think you said too much. No, you're just alluding to that there's something going on in the credits.
I'm uninstalling it right now, actually.
No, wait, don't do it. Well, basically, yeah, like it kind of like it's not directly telling you, but if you pay attention, like you either like do one thing or another, and if you pay attention to kind of the other thing, like then like a cutscene happens, and then it like. I was like, oh wait, it's throwing me back to this, and then you can, man, it's like I can't even really say because like I think like the first one too. I think there's like kind of like multiple things towards the end of the game that you can do.
Is.
That's like there's all these different endings, but like it's not all happening at the same moment. It's kind of like staggered. But if you pay attention to like that moment, if you activate something, then something happens.
Okay.
And that's basically what happened to me. Like I went through that cutscene. It brought me back to something where I was like, oh shit, like what am I doing again? Like why are we here again? And then like I was paying attention to like there was kind of like a visual cue, but also like the dragon was talking and saying some stuff that kind of alluding. And then I did a thing and something happened where I was like, oh shit, like okay, like now it almost feels like I have like literally another like 60 hours of the game or something. Like it's insane. I don't know if I do. Wow. I don't know if I do, but
you might. Yeah, I actually don't know much about the end game. I kept it to myself, but I know there is an end game. Yeah. That's probably what you're talking about here. And that game is just that whole credo of that game is like, are you paying attention? Like that whole. Right. So that's so funny that even up to the credits, it's like, this is what we're here for, guys. Like you're here to, right. It's a full focus video game,
Yeah, it does like if you're like one of those people, it's like, well, $70 game, I better be worth. Like, dude, there's like just an obscene amount of stuff going on here.
Like, there's like 300 or 400 hours worth of content in this game, and you can beat the game at 30 hours. So,
you can just plow right through the story.
Yeah, so it is a game that's like it gives and I said this whenever it first came out. It as much as you put in, it gives right back. Yeah. But if you're not willing to put in more than what's like right in front of you, then like that's what you get, So
it's like a Zelda game, basically.
Absolutely.
The recent ones. I mean.
You could just be an asshole and run through Tears of the Kingdom, or you could enjoy the ride. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can look in every nook and cranny.
To Dan's credit, when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom, all he did was enjoy the ride. He didn't.
True. Yeah. All he did. It was all ride for Dan. Yeah.
Dude, I put that shit on cruise control, and I was just like.
What's this way? Dun, 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 dun.
Just cruising the whole time. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 is, I mean, aside from just like kind of some menu-y stuff that's just not super smooth, or like I don't love the teleportation system. I kind of like, I'm fine with the fairy stones. I don't like that I have to like get port crystals and plant them somewhere to, you know what I mean?
And like people defend that, like Souls people defend bringing people in, and I'm just like, shut up. Like, it's lore. I'm like, I don't care. Just make it intuitive. I don't care about how lore accurate it is.
There's like a couple of places that just have one built into like that main city there that you get to eventually. It's just built into that. So like, why didn't every single town like just have that built in? Like that just would have been kind of like fine. I'll have to
really want you to just walk everywhere in that game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they really like they make it so obtuse where it's just like I'm just gonna walk.
Yeah. So, but I mean that's not even like necessarily like a bad thing because again it's a game where it's like you said, you go and you explore and you get rewarded and that's amazing.
Yeah. If you do walk down that road again, you will probably see something you hadn't seen before. If you're looking.
Yeah. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 is like amazing. So fantastic.
Nice.
And then really. Awesome. The only other thing I just want to mention, it very incredibly important to me because this band has literally been a part of my life since high school.
Creed.
Linkin Park is Creed. God damn it!
Can you take? I'm sorry.
Linkin Park is back. Like they're a band again. They're back together.
Was it for like charity? Like wasn't it for?
No, they're back, Kyle.
I thought that they played like
she's like the official new lead singer.
This is literally like they're an actual band. The drummer didn't come back apparently.
He left the band in 2020 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he I think like the whole situation was just probably too much for him, and he's just like I can't go back on this ride with you guys sort of thing. That's what it seems like from the interview. There's an hour-long interview on YouTube that's actually really nice. Some guy that's part of like Apple something I don't even understand, but like apparently he's also been interviewing them for like their entire career, which is cool. So it was like a nice closeness with the interview because they just like they know each other. They've been knowing each other for 25 years. But yeah, Emily Armstrong is the new lead singer. And they did like a free live stream, like kind of like almost full concert. It was like an hour, maybe like a smidge longer. And they opened up with like one of the new songs on the new album that's coming out.
The new album, that's cool.
Yeah, it's coming out November 15th. Was it From Zero? I think it's called. And it was actually, I was watching it live because Renee was also kind of like keeping tabs on it because she knows how important they are to me. And I like forgot about it for a moment. And literally a few minutes past 6 p.m., she like came running into the room. She's like, hey, it's something starting. And I was like, oh shit. Like I almost forgot. And like they came up on stage and Mike's like, hey, like it's good to see everybody back. So I was like, oh my God, the tears. But like he started singing the new song and then she just like came out. I legit didn't even see her. She just came out of nowhere and then she starts singing her bit. And then that's the moment everyone realized like, oh, this is the new lead singer. Like this is the person. I'm not offended by her being in this band. I know she's not Chester. Obviously, people are going to have their conversations like we were just talking about earlier with Concord.
It's hard to replace the lead singer. That's like the hardest thing to do in the entire world for a band.
100%.
It's an uphill battle for sure.
And I mean, I don't know, like maybe this does add something to it. Doesn't like also being a woman, like because she came from another band and she has her own style. Because I think it was, what is it, Dead Sarah, I think is the name of the band that she was part of for like a decade or 12 years. So she has her own style, and her own stuff that she's had coming on here. And people are just gonna have their opinions, oh, you should have changed the name of the band because it's not the same band anymore, or
people are real curious about that stuff, about music, which is,
or you should have found a copycat, which to me is like almost more disrespectful. Like, imagine being like up there, like after all these years of finally reconciling with this pain of like your friend and bandmate killing themselves, and it's just some copycat guy who kind of sounds pretty identical, but it's not Chester. You know what I mean? Like,
be like Jackass getting a guy who looks just like Ryan Dunn to come on, like, and it's like, you're not Ryan. Yeah, what the fuck is this?
So like, to me, those takes are just so weird. Like, I get it, guys. You want to hear but like he's gone. You just kind of have to accept it. And like, these guys also want to move forward. Like, they want to move on. They want to like be at peace with everything that happened and create a new thing. I'll say this though, and I don't know if just my ears are being weird. I feel like there was like a tinge of Chesterness to her voice. It is like mostly like predominantly her style and her thing. I think it does work with their sound, and I'm on board. I think she sounds good. I think she has a good voice. But I don't know. I was kind of feeling something there, and I don't know if it was just because they're back and it was a new song, and I was like, this sounds like a Linkin Park song, so I'm excited. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy that they were able to be in a place where they could come back. Because again, it's just, for me, they're important to me. And they've always been an anomaly too, because I don't like rap music at all. But they're literally a combination of like metal and rap and, metal, and all of these things, and it's just like, when I think about it, it's like, it's weird that I like them so much, but I do. And I'm just happy that they're back and they're in a good place and they're going to create new music and do new things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So there we go.
Nice.
That's really it.
What about you, Kyle?
It's one more new game actually that just came out this week. It's
Kyle, that's not our thing. That's not our thing, Kyle.
Yep, sorry everybody. It's a new Kyle. It's new Kyle, playing
Kyle.
new stuff.
Only new games.
It's Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. I put like 10 hours into it by now,
Too many, I think.
Pretty good. I like it, It's
okay.
It's very not AAA, you know what I mean? So like it is and it feels that way. I think in my Facebook post I said like,
it's a smaller studio doing this, right?
It is, yeah. It looks like an Xbox 360 game, but yeah, when Test Drive Unlimited 1 and 2 came out, like it didn't look like Forza or Gran Turismo, or Need for Speed for that matter, like it kind of was always this like uglier, little brother who had kind of all these like really imaginative ideas, but you didn't really pay much attention to it because like it was something else. And like they kind of created the whole foundation for like Forza Horizon, which went on to take this and do it better, I would say.
Yeah.
But they kind of while that game is more of like a social game, this game is like more of like an MMO, so like and like Forza, like you always get like you see your buddies because they're drivatars and yada yada, you're always going against their scores like that. But this game has that too, but it also has like chats in the world, like everybody's talking. So like when you pull up to like a streetcar meet or whatever, everyone's like hanging out and like talking via the mic and stuff like that. So it's open mic for the whole server or proximity to that area, so it's not it's not 100 people talking on top of each other or anything like that. But it's cool. This game's got it. I know, God, yeah.
How does shit talking like, hey, you got that pink slip? Like, you pull up. Like,
this game is pretty like it's a small niche, group of people who play this. So like everyone's been really nice, like it's really weird. Like I'm usually not a guy who has like world chat on and all, but like it has been fun, like walking out of my apartment. And they're like, dude, you look so stupid, but they're saying it nicely, and I'm like, yeah, I made it on purpose, and it's just like, it's just everyone's just kind of hanging out and like, hey, what are you going to go do today? It's like, well, I'm doing speed traps today. I'm saving up for a new car or whatever. And the game is not like, you're really grinding in this game. So like, you're not like doing a race and get 7 cars after you're done. Like you're accumulating money and buying cars and like there's meaning behind it, whereas like I kind of feel like with Forza, like that meaning kind of gets lost whenever you're on your 100th car for the session. But it's also a really cool way to try a bunch of cars without breaking your bank, so like it's a two-edged sword. But I don't know. I like this game. I don't know who this game is for, though. I feel like if you played Test Drive Unlimited 1 and 2, like, play this game. If you're not playing these games, like, go play Forza Horizon 5. Like, that's the best version of this still.
Or 4 if you like that setting better. Both are great.
Or 4 if you like that setting better. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of good racers out there. And like this is pretty good, but just know it is like it's not like the other games, you know. Like it is a little bit weirder, a little bit rougher around the edges, a little more homebrew, you know. It's AA through and through, you know, but it's a cool game. I really like it. I really like the community so far. I will say that not having a 240SX, a Silvia, or an R34 Nissan Skyline in a racing game is insane to me.
I was just gonna say that.
It's insane to me. I mean, those are the only cars I know, you know. Like, I'm not a car guy. I just like those cars, you know. And like the very first thing I did is try and find those cars, and like there are 2 Nissans, and it's a 370Z from 2011 and an R35, which is great, but it's not an R34.
It's just not the same, you know.
It's not the same. I hate it. Yeah. Where's the Silvia?
Yeah. I mean, it's like. So, yeah. They should just have a Dodge Grand Caravan. You know what I'm saying? Like, just add one of those in there.
Yeah. Where's the Winnebago? Where's the Halo Warthog?
But all they have is the Dodge Caravan. Not even a Grand Caravan? Right. Are you kidding me?
They only have the hardtop version, not the soft top version of this car. Anyways, yeah, there's like 90 cars instead of like 1,000 like it is in most games these days. So like they really, you know, it pick and chose. Yeah. And I will say that as you're upgrading your car is one of the few racing games where it's like I really feel the difference. Like whenever you're for an because it's an arcade racer. It's not like a motorsport or Gran Turismo or anything like that. It's arcadey. It's fun. You know, I think you know if it's for you. You know, I don't think this is a game that's gonna like turn you into a racer fan or anything like that. So fun though. I'm glad I got it in early access. I'm playing it a week ahead of before it comes out. So
for that team's sake, I hope that it does decent numbers because it's just been delayed so many times. It's like, man,
it really has, and their marketing was pretty poor. There was a lot of things that was screaming. Even as the game was leading up, I was like, this game is going to get reviewed so horribly. I must have said that out loud multiple times. It's getting 7s, you know, for the most part. I think 7s, 8s, you know, like maybe a couple horrible. 6s, but it's not horrible. But you know, it's just I don't know how much money this needs to make to like be successssul. Like I just don't know. After all those delays, like I imagine they need a lot. You know.
Yeah. It's stuff like you said with the Forzas and the Gran Turismos in the world. You know.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if you know, hopefully in their quest to make this game, they realize we're not the bell of the ball here, you know what I mean? So we need to make, you know, hard projections need to be within reason. Hopefully all that happened, but as we've seen this year, not a lot of that going around.
So true. Yeah, well, there you go. There's our recap of the week, stuff that we're playing, stuff that we're watching. The biggest news, of course, with Concord, only hoping for the best for that studio and for Sony moving forward. And honestly, selfishly for us as gamers, I want Sony to, I don't know, I feel like they, as first party studio, have been pretty quiet this year, and I'd love to see more. Like Astro Bot's amazing, but
I miss loud Sony, like where they're swinging and like we're in the fight. You know, I feel like they've been cruising for a couple years now. And the
best case scenario is they're all just heads down doing that stuff for 2025. Awesome, that's great. If that's what we're looking at, that's excellent. But yeah, of course, Astro Bot is a joy. Space Marine 2 is super violent and awesome, and so go check out both those games if those are your thing. And hey, go check out Shogun Showdown. Super fun little indie game.
Yeah, I'm literally going to download that when we get off here.
Sweet. Well, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.